one of the things they tell us as well is like, you're not going to get what you want out of this medicine. It's going to give you what you need. And that was extremely true. All I can say is the Ibogaine experience was like many years of therapy within a night. I woke up having this weight lifted off my shoulders. 2 MS patients went down to one of the Ibogaine clinics there in Mexico and had their Ibogaine experience. And they did an MRI pre-Ibogaine and an MRI post. And I think it was like a couple of months post-Ibogaine, and their lesions in their brain have shrunk. It's just, nobody understands what this medicine's capable of, but they know it's doing things. People with severe TBI who couldn't stand being in the sun can now go out in the sun without glasses. And just people that have had debilitating migraines, whatever, it's doing miracles. It really is. When they hold space for you during this entire weekend, it's done beautifully. These people they're there for the right reasons. They truly care. They want you to heal. They understand that they're taking care of veterans almost every weekend down there. And it's just really a beautiful thing to see, man.
This is Alone and Unafraid. This episode is brought to you by Cadence Wealth Partners. You need to get your financial shit together. And who better to do that than a former military dude? Specifically, I'm talking about Nick O'Kelly. You know he's legit, long tabber, special forces, 160th pilot. He's not your average dude. Now, I take small piles of money and I give it to him with the goal of making them bigger piles of money. We're not just talking about only managing money. We're talking about building a financial strategy, estate planning, retirement planning. We're talking 5-paragraph op order kind of shit, but for your finances. He handles all that shit. I don't want to do that. It's annoying. I want nothing to do with it.
Sounds good to me.
He also works with my CPA, and together they do all the tax strategy stuff. I've got a couple side businesses. Tyler's got a couple side hustles. You need some cats looking out for you. Cadence Wealth Partners can be those cats. They're trusted advisors. They come from our community. You know they're legit. Visit financeforvets.com. That's finance, the number 4 vets.com to start a conversation today. Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Break yourself, fool!
This episode is brought to you by Polestar Coffee. Head over to polestarcoffee.com, grab a bag, use offer code ALONE at checkout, and taste the difference. polestarcoffee.com. Welcome back to Alone and Unafraid, where we explore the intersections of everyday life, mental health, and mindset with ordinary people who have or are now facing incredible challenges. My name is Thad King, and I'm your host. What if I told you there's a way to rewire your brain, confront your deepest traumas, and come out the other side with a new understanding of yourself? And what if that method wasn't years of talk therapy, but something that happens in just a few hours, something that feels maybe more like a direct connection to God? Today, we're talking about the mind-bending world of Ibogaine and 5-MeO DMT, 2 of the most powerful psychedelics known to man, and how they're changing lives of veterans. And today's episode is an incredibly special one for me because my guest is someone I've known since I was 13 years old, Jeremy Tomlin. We've spent formidable years of high school together, and today we're talking about his journey from Eastern North Carolina to the oil fields of Texas to the Marine Corps with multiple combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. Jeremy, welcome to the show, dude.
Hey, appreciate it, man. It's good to see you. Good to see you too, Tyler.
Yeah, you too, man.
Hucky Bears in the hizzy.
Yeah,
What's
I am.
So we're just starting it. This is where did you get Hucky? I guess Hucky Bear. That makes sense. I was reading it Huggy Bear, but it's Hucky Bear.
No, it's Hucky Bear. And then when I was in the Army, it transmorphed into the Hucky Bear Jew. So
yeah, okay. I always like fuck it, huck it. That's my
you and everybody else out
my
there.
favorite one.
Yeah,
but,
man. I mean, it's different. You definitely put a different spin on it.
Yeah, but Hucky Bear, that's more PG. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
So Jeremy, hey man, I'm super excited to talk with you today. Just right off the bat, you were able to go down to Mexico and do some amazing stuff. And I think what you did, was really cool. And I really want to hear all about it. But before we get into it, let's set the stage of how we know each other. We met it was probably 90, right?
I think it was 1990. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to say it was either me and Kevin were maybe skating by your grandparents' house on Copley, right? Isn't that where they lived?
Yep.
Copley
yeah.
Ave?
So yeah, my granddad did. So yeah, I knew Kevin before. I think he and I had met probably 2 years prior and hung out during the summer whenever I would stay with my grandparents in North Carolina. And just prior to my moving there, I think it was that summer or spring break whenever I met you, and you were hanging out with Kevin because you lived just, not even a block away from his grandparents.
Yeah, I lived across kind of like catty corner from his, and that was the Lincoln Forest crew. So the folks that are listening to this, if you're in Eastern North Carolina and happen to find yourself in Wilmington, there's a neighborhood called Lincoln Forest behind the mall, and it's where all the cool kids hung out. But
that's right.
But yeah,
I bet.
And like Tyler, I've told you before, like we were skaters back then. Like that was the thing that we were, and it was an all day, every day thing,
Oh yeah. I'm familiar. It was that or drugs, I think, for me. And I didn't partake in the drugs. I took up the skateboarding.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember the first beer I ever had was Jeremy's granddad had a Kelvinator kind of refrigerator, like those.
Yeah, it was from the 50s.
Yeah. And it had like ice all in the freezer part was like all over frozen. And it had like this little door for butter, like on the inside. And there was like a singular Budweiser in there. And I remember you were like, you real sneakily got it. And like, we skated over to Kevin's house and into the driveway and you're like, dudes, I got a beer. I remember you cracked it open. I was like, no, I can't drink a beer. And I was like, Kevin, you like chugged some, and then Kevin did, and then I took a sip, and I remember it was like the grossest thing I'd ever tasted. And I'm like,
I was probably 3 or 4 years old, and my grandfather, I don't think I had seen my granddad drink a beer in years. So who knows how long it had been in that refrigerator.
Yeah. That was
skunky.
Yeah. It was definitely bad, but
it was a good deterrent.
Yeah. But, so man, hey, tell us about, so we lived in North Carolina, and your dad was, I thought your dad was in the oil industry, right? Or was he in construction or something?
It was, so they did industrial construction. Yeah. He worked for a company called Brown and Root for over 30 years.
Oh,
so, so we moved him. Yeah. So my dad, they're from, my family's from the East Coast. That was my connection to the East Coast. And his job moved us around quite a bit. But yeah, so I was born in Texas, and then I was always in North Carolina or Virginia for either Christmas or for spring break or for summer. And eventually, we moved from Texas to, his job moved him to Georgia, a little town in northwest Georgia called Rome. And they had a huge maintenance contract with the paper mills and the sawmills out there. So he was in charge of all that. And eventually my grandparents were getting to especially my grandmother was getting to a place where, she couldn't take care of herself, and my grandfather was getting up in age. So they made the decision for my mom and I to move to Wilmington, North Carolina, to help take care of them. And that's where, you and I became friends and started hanging out and went to school together. I went to, I was in middle school, a little different place than you were. But then when we entered high school, that's where we ended up really getting to know each other real well.
Yeah. You went to Myrtle Grove, right?
We went to Myrtle Grove middle school. Yeah. And then we went to John T. Hoggard.
Yeah. Cause I was the Roll and Grice crew. And,
that's right. Yeah.
Well, so what's interesting is too, our moms both went to Hanover, I think, right?
Yeah.
So that's the high school that was in the 60s was the only high school until they built the high school that Jeremy and I went to. But anyways, that's probably super boring for everybody else going down.
I do have a question.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And I hope we'll see if it nets anything good. Did you guys ever get into trouble together?
Sure we did.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if it was like serious trouble. Like, I don't know if we really ran from the cops or we thought we were running from the cops. Like we would skate bunch of places and get ran off all the time.
Yeah.
And every now and again, you know, it was cool to like
pretend to run from the cops. Like, cops are here. We're getting out. We're busting out, dude. We're going back to jail.
Yeah, we didn't. I don't think we ever actually had any one-on-one, one-on-ones with the cops in person. But we would, if we saw them, we ran. So it's probably more of a fear factor on our end to run.
Yeah. I mean, one time we skated. We went all the way on the other side of College Road, like way, way far. I mean, it was probably like as the crow flies, probably only 6 or maybe 10 miles, but like in a car that would take you maybe 30 minutes with traffic to get to where it was an all day thing. And I remember my mom wasn't that pissed, but Kevin's mom was really pissed. And I don't know if I feel like your mom was mad because she was
always mad. So,
yeah, she was always mad. She had that. You guys had like a Cutlass Supreme or
it was an Oldsmobile, man. Yeah.
Oldsmobile,
that big V8 in it. That thing was sweet, man.
Yeah. And I remember your mom like one day getting out and she was always smoking a cigarette and she was, hollering. But anyways, I don't know that anybody cares. I mean, it's like great for Jeremy and I.
Man.
I mean, we had a lot of we did a lot of cool shit. Like in the 90s, we used to we would skate everywhere and stay out, at night skating, get up early in the morning. And we were kind of lucky that, where I lived and Jeremy's grandparents lived like a block from me, but where the neighborhood that I lived was kind of in the city. So you could skate to like the mall or you could skate to, our like normal rounds were like the mall and there was a place called Jim's Pawn and Gun
in Color Tile
and Walden Books. We used to go look at porno mags and
hell yeah.
In Walden Books, we put like a surfing magazine and they had a Playboy in there and we'd try to look at Playboys and we didn't have any money and so we would go over to the pawn store and look at guns and surfboards and then that was pretty much what we did. It was a great time, man. I had a good time and I think now kids don't have that opportunity and my son's always inside playing video games and
yeah, I mean, I remember one of the more memorable times for me was when you guys had moved, your mom had moved, and you were closer to the sound or closer to the inlet, and we rode bikes from there. You had the Vietnamese farmer hats, and we carried our surfboards, and rode to the beach.
Yeah, rode to the beach.
We surfed, and it was fun because there was a lot of freedom. I mean, there was not any real fear of somebody coming to snag you up as a kid I have a 10-year-old now and I'm like, no, you're not going to the park without us because it's Houston, right? I live right off a main highway. There's no way.
Oh, yeah. No way.
But yeah, we were just feral kids. It was a blast.
Yeah. I mean, we would ride our bikes or skateboard in the wintertime, I would ride to the beach with a wetsuit on my bike. And then, or we would surf Masonboro Inlet and we would leave during the day, swim across the inlet and come back like when the sun was setting or sometimes at night. And it's like a shipping channel, like big boats are going through there and we have no lights on or anything. And like, yeah, whatever, man. And there was no water there over there. There was no lifeguards. There was no, just, like a nature preserve kind of place. So there was like, if you got hurt or bitten by a shark, like nobody would come there was no way they'd even know something was wrong with you. And we did that shit all the time. Like, it was just, I think nowadays it's just different. Kids, there's a park next to our house and my son's 15 and my wife's still like, where are you going? What time are you going to be back? You gotta, let me see your phone. And it's just,
yeah, I couldn't imagine as a parent today, letting my daughter do a tenth of the shit that we got away with, mostly because my parents were working, you know what I mean? So it's, you get off the bus or you walk home from school and you're alone till 7 p.m. anyway. So it was just chaos. We used to shovel off because I'm from Vermont. And so we'd skated a lot in the wintertime. It kind of like, there's nowhere to skate, obviously, because everything's covered in ice and snow. So we'd go out to the sidewalk and we'd like shovel off a square, and you just sit on that square and you do kickflips for hours and just work on like an ollie or a kickflip or just like tricks standing still.
That's awesome.
So,
yeah.
And I remember too, like Jeremy, you when you lived over on you lived on Pelican Point, and and Jeremy dated my cousin, which for like
I guess it was like my first real girlfriend. Yeah, that was your cousin.
Grade, yeah. Probably ninth grade. You guys
were that way.
Yeah, and this is a fun fact is at that time, I had an older cousin in 11th grade. I was in 10th. Jeremy was in 9th. And then my cousin was also in 9th grade. And so the King crew, we had one kid in each grade. And so like everybody knew, or maybe I thought everybody knew us or our family, but, it was like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon with the King clan. But what I was always remembering is at that time, I was always talking about going in the military, and you were like, yeah, I might do that. And you always said, if I do anything, it'll be the Marine Corps, because your dad was in the Marines. And I remember you had that K-bar, that was your dad's K-bar, and you're always like, yeah, check this shit out. It's like a real Marine K-bar.
Yeah, I mean, it was a prized possession. And yeah, my dad was in the Marines, grew up in the mountains of Virginia, had an 8th grade education, and ended up joining the Marine Corps after he got his GED, and was basically in Vietnam before Vietnam was a thing, right? Before it really kicked off. And they were making excursions across the border and doing a lot of really interesting stuff that, it's not talked about a lot prior to the war really truly kicking off. And he never really talked about those things when I was growing up. He held the Marine Corps in very high regard. I think it was instrumental in it was instrumental in shaping his life and the direction of his life. I think it gave him a lot of discipline. And so I saw that in him. A guy that has an 8th grade education is providing for my family and doing very well for himself. We weren't rich by any means. We weren't even really, probably we were lower middle class, but, I saw that and saw that level of discipline in his life. And he put that forth in whether it was sports, work, his hobbies, anything like that. So it was definitely, it had a huge impact on me.
Yeah. And your dad or your granddad was he in the Army or the Marines? He
was in the Army. Yeah. So my grandfather was drafted, and he did 4 campaigns in North Africa in World War II. And then he made it through D-Day. I don't know how many hours, like D-Day plus how many hours, but he made it through the landing. And actually it wasn't that long thereafter, and they were making the push into Bastogne is when he was hit. He was actually driving a Jeep back to the front lines with a whole ton of ammo, and they started walking rounds across the field, he said, and he jumped out and laid down in a terrace, like where the field's plowed, a terrace in the field. And I don't know how close the round was, but it was enough to throw him probably 15 feet back, and it broke his back and his leg. And so he was pretty much, when he was going through field triage, he told me this. He didn't tell me anything until I joined the Marine Corps, and right before I deployed to Iraq is when he started telling me stuff. So
I
had to earn that, right? But he said he remembers the last thing he really remembers whenever he was there was being field triaged, and they were pointing saying, yes, yes, no. And he pointed and says, no, not going to make it. No. And he said at that point, he made up his mind. He's like, I'm going to live. Like, I've got to live. And really interesting. Talking about your 6 degrees of separation. He actually was, when he finally made it back to the States, he was in a rehab hospital, actually in the town that my parents and I moved to in Georgia, in Rome, Georgia. They had a hospital there, and he spent well over a year learning to walk and basically function all over again independently. Yeah.
Man. And that's, what's crazy is, in that time in the 90s, all the World War II vets were still around, and they weren't that old. Like Kevin Wilson's granddad, Gordon O. Henson, was a medic in World War II. And like, these were dudes that lived on our street, and we had no idea how much combat they had seen and what they had done. And,
we're just like little shitheads running around with our skateboards, and we weren't disrespectful, but there was so much to be gleaned from those guys, and it was just youth is wasted on the young, right? We didn't know what we didn't know, but
there was growing up, I had this guy. They lived down the street from us, and when I lived in Hampstead, which is a town just north of where Jeremy and I lived, and one of the guys was our family friend, and he was a double amputee, and he was a B-52. Like, I think he was like back when B-52s had a tail gunner back there. In the early part of Vietnam, he was a tail gunner on a B-52, and they got shot down, and he lost both his legs. He broke them, and they were amputated, and he was in POW camp in Vietnam. And anyways, just a really cool. His daughter was like 2 years older than me and went to the same school, and used to babysit us, and she used to take my mom had like a bottle of vodka, like a handle of vodka, and she would babysit us, and then she would drink the vodka and then put water back in to like make it look like there was vodka in there. And my mom really didn't drink liquor. Like, she was, not a like a liquor drinker. She's more of like a beer person. So I don't think she ever knew, but Mom, if you're listening to this, it was Tanya. She did it. So
she owes you.
Yeah.
It would have been cool to have this medium to be able to talk to World War II vets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To have the opportunity to have the long conversations with them.
Absolutely.
Because I can't even imagine like the shit that we never heard about what they did.
Yeah. I mean, and I think of that generation, it just wasn't things you talked about or dealt with, or,
no, not at all.
They just kind of sucked it up and suffered. And some guys were really, like Kevin Wilson's granddad, Mr. Henson, was like an exceptional human. Like, he was genuinely an upbeat, positive guy that would do a lot for us. And, and some other people just never talked about it. You'd never know in a million years that they, ever did anything or had anything to do with that. But
I'm curious as to what it is about that generation. And I'm sure it has a lot to do with, going through the Depression and, that time in America and making it to that war and then fighting that war, which was a pretty obvious, good versus evil conflict. Right. And I don't know the numbers, but it just seems like the majority of them came out and they were able to go do a thing, right, and reintegrate back into society, find a way to make a living. And maybe, making a living back then is different than it is now. But what the difference is between them and like us, why is it harder or seems harder? Obviously, there's a lot more spotlights on it now for people to come back and reintegrate. Just seems like there's less space for it now.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, our transition, I mean, this is just me theorizing, but it's like our transitions back. I mean, especially with what you guys were doing, your deployment schedules were insane. And, your transition from battlefield back to basically going to Walmart within a day is not conventional, right? That's not there's no way to decompress. There's no way to share what you're going through or what you've seen. And at least they had boat rides. They stayed to the end of the war. They saw it through unless they were wounded. And
right.
I think there's a lot to be said for sitting with your guys and gals and sitting around smoking and shooting the breeze and just getting that experience sussed out through conversation and through whatever it is they were able to do. That long sail back, whether it was a couple of months or a month, but we're a plane ride away from a war zone and a plane ride back home. And it's, that's what was kind of a mind job for me was when I came back from Afghanistan. We landed at March Air Force Base in California and were escorted back by the Patriot Guard and rode right on base. And I look out of the bus that we're on and my wife is standing there. And it was just like really surreal. Yeah. Because I was just in Afghanistan and then a couple of days later I was in Kyrgyzstan and then now I'm back in California. And it's like, all right. And the CEO was like, yeah, you guys, your families are, you can go off base and stay with your family. I'm like, it was just really a difficult transition, to make for me. And so, yeah, I mean, I think for them, it's just it was the time. And also, I mean, it was just a different, like you said, Tyler, when you come back, it was like kind of had to just make things happen for themselves. And here we have a lot of safety nets now.
Yeah.
And also everybody in World War II, like everybody was in the war.
Right.
It was a collective effort between,
the whole country was
the
working.
whole country was doing it. People were buying war bonds, saving their rubber for the war,
building
effort.
Ships,
everybody's doing it. Where we have this warrior class, which is, I would argue that probably now is more historically accurate for cultures, like of having a warrior class that goes out and does things while the other ones, stay back and don't do anything. And, I'm not saying they don't do anything, like I'm talking about like combat wise. And so, I think back then everybody was doing it. And so it was, you didn't have a professional
soldier back then.
Yeah.
You got called up, you had a thing to do for your country and you went and did it, and you came home and you didn't like hang your hat on being the warrior or a soldier for the rest of your life. And I wonder if having closure on the war kind of helps versus like coming back and just watching this shit show unfold and then them just kind of shit can it in the worst way possible. You're like, well, what the fuck? So I'm curious if like, hey, we went out there, we did a good job. It was miserable and it was terrible. I wonder if that kind of helped it too. I don't know.
Yeah. And maybe too, back then, like everybody was doing the same thing. Everybody kind of, you didn't have there wasn't like mass media to influence, like,
right.
And right now it's the name of the game is do what makes you happy. And, I don't know that back then it was you had to provide and work, and it probably wasn't that great. I mean, I don't, I often think like, would I want to be alive back then? And there's some cool parts of that. Like, I genuinely think that we're probably better off without social media and cell phones.
Yeah.
But I also like social media and cell phones, and so
it's like the comfort zone type thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and after, Pearl Harbor, everybody just went and joined up, and we had a little bit of that here. I mean, after September 11th, a lot of people, I mean, Jeremy, you went to the day after or something, or like it was pretty close to September 11th,
so
right?
I didn't enlist that day after. I did go the day after September 11th and went to the recruiter's office in Beaumont, Texas. And I was ready to roll. I was ready to do that. And, the Marine recruiter was actually there, and the Army one showed up in civvies, and they were like, we're not going to let anyone make it. We're not, you look back at it and they were saying these things, and it's like, okay, that's noble of you not to, let somebody make a real decision. Cause they're like, we're going to go to war. We know we're going to war. This is, it's a non-negotiable, and we want to make sure that you're signed up for the right reasons. But also probably the offices were not open. Government offices were not open that day.
Yeah. Which is laughable if I think about recruiters. Like, we want you to make the right decision. Yeah. Okay, dude.
But you also look at the mindset, on 9/12, and it was significantly different than what we have now. And even after, a couple of years later, the attitude was one of, I remember driving towards the beach, going to the beach a few days later in Galveston area, and people are riding around with flags that say war, and like they're ready to go defend our country.
Yeah, everybody had those
American
flag bumper stickers,
yep.
And like everybody was like, I lived in Newport News, and I was in the Army, and I remember I put a flag out on my porch, and like everybody on my street had flags, and like everybody was, it was, wasn't there some guy, like, didn't Glenn Beck have a thing called the 9/12 Project, where they were trying to like bring unity back to wasn't that a thing?
I recall, I don't know who was in charge of it, but it may have been. It was somebody, but I recall that. It was like, let's have that same vein of thinking and of unity about standing for our country and the ideals of it.
Well, so eventually you end up joining the Marine Corps, and I remember because you went to Iraq in 2007, maybe?
Yeah, 2007. So yeah.
Because I was in Iraq then still when you got there.
Yeah, because I remember talking to you. Remember, I went back to North Carolina for a little short period of time to visit with my family, and I was in between jobs. So, long story short, I went to. So the day after, I went to the recruiter. Did not enlist that day. Went home and actually called my grandfather, who am I going to talk to about war? What's going to be my dad or my grandfather? Well, my grandfather was the first call, and he said something really prescient, and and at the time I didn't really understand what he was saying, but he's like, look, you're going to be the first one in our family. You need to finish your degree. And he goes, and if I know anything, this war is going to last long. There's going to be plenty of war. He said, there's going to be plenty of war for you to fight if you want to go do that. And at the time I took that for, okay, well, you know, I got a couple more years of school left and I'll enlist or go OCS, and then we'll see what's happening. But he was a lot more right than I ever would know. That, you know, I don't think he even realized it was going to be a 21-year endeavor.
Yeah.
But
I remember, like, we're never going to have another Vietnam. No, we fucked that up.
Well, we almost doubled it.
Yeah. But yeah, I went ahead and I didn't necessarily lose my fervor for joining, but I went ahead and stayed in school, changed majors probably 4 times, ended up graduating from college and got a job in pharmaceutical sales. And I was working down in the South Texas area. So these were legal pharmaceuticals. You know, when you hear South Texas of pharmaceuticals, you put 2 and 2 together, but this was a legit job and I really didn't like it. I ended up actually getting fired from the job. And, so at that point I was like, okay, now's the time. So I ended up moving back to the Houston area and, really got serious about my physical fitness, and, woke up one day and ironed my khakis and my polo shirt and put on my boots and went to the recruiter and walked in. I was like, hey, my name's Jeremy. I want to be 0311 and when can I go? And they're like, whoa, wait a minute. What? And, you know, there's a steps to this. And I'm like, I know, but I know what I want to do. And this is what I want to do. And I want to do it now. And so when I made my mind up, I was ready to roll, but, you know, had to take the ASVAB off, or hadn't taken it since high school. You know, when the recruiters show up and say, hey, you could be a nuclear, you know, on the sub, and you could be a nuclear engineer and all, you know, all those fun things they tell you can do, or you could be Intel. But I did it. And in the process, I pissed off the Houston OSO, the officer recruiter, because they were like, you have to meet with the OSO. You have a degree. I'm like, I don't want to meet with them. I want to go enlisted. And she's like, no, you understand. Like, it's part of our process. I'm like, so what do I have to do? Like, call him? And she's like, no, you have to go have lunch with him. I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like, I didn't want to talk to this guy. So I ended up going to lunch with him. I think we actually met like at McDonald's or something in downtown Houston. It was ridiculous. It was
classy.
Just, you know, yeah, it was really like, hey, you want to go in the Marine Corps?
Did he make you buy it, or he or she?
No, I think he actually paid for it. I don't remember if it was McDonald's or something, but it was not. It wasn't.
It was Whataburger.
It probably was.
As long as it wasn't Crystal Burger.
Well, but see, Texas is like, I mean, they have this weird thing with Whataburger, and
well, it's not Texas owned anymore, so we disowned it.
Oh, it's just not. I mean, it's okay, but on the hierarchy of burgers, this might piss a lot of people off. But there's one fast food chain at the top. It's a clear winner. In-N-Out.
I'm an In-N-Out fan, so I'm not going to argue with you.
Look, classic. Easy, I want to say bougie ratchet, but it's a easy menu. There's only 2 things on the menu. You can get a double or a double, or is it a single and a double? Whatever it is.
Wouldn't that just be called a quad? Why they got to be done with it?
You can get an animal style, the secret menu, which I like the animal style. And
animal style fries.
Yeah, the animal style fries is good. So there's In-N-Out, right? Number 2, Five Guys.
I disagree.
Yeah. What do you think's number 2?
Whataburger.
Get the fuck out of here!
Come on, man. Yeah.
I just went. You ever been to Whataburger?
Probably, but nothing beats just that standard, what used to be a 99-cent or an 89-cent cheeseburger from McDonald's. That's the best one.
Like, there's a difference between like, I'm going for a purpose to eat, and
I want to be a piece of shit by the end of this.
Yeah. Or I've had a lot to drink and it's the only thing open, so I'm going to McDonald's to get those. And I still get the number 7 at McDonald's, and it's still trash food. But, you know, to go down the rabbit hole of, I would say Whataburger's 3 but the distance from Whataburger, the distance from In-N-Out to Five Guys is not that far, and the distance from Five Guys to Whataburger is not that far. But the difference from Whataburger to like McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's that's a gap.
There's an exponential jump.
Yeah. So that's my spiel about burgers.
All of those sit on the same level for me. They're all the same.
Well, they're all garbage. In-N-Out does do like whole potatoes like on the spot, and they like cut them with that cutter thing, and they go right into the fryer. But it's still probably all shit for you, and you probably shouldn't eat it. But I could go for In-N-Out right now. And do they have them in Texas yet?
There's a handful of them over here now. Yeah, the first one went to Dallas, and now we have probably 4 or 5 in Houston.
Yeah. For the international listeners, they were only in California for the longest time, and then they put one in Vegas, and then a couple in Arizona, and then they eventually spread into. Now they're in Oregon, California, Nevada.
This podcast
Arizona.
is brought to you by In-N-Out Burgers.
Yeah. I didn't eat.
We make real French fries.
Yeah. So you end up going to Iraq in 2007. You were out in Anbar, where all the Marines were, and you guys were what, like in Haditha out that way?
I was in Haditha. So Haditha, Barwana, and Haklania. They called it AO Triad out there. So our battalion was out there. We got there close to the end, probably October, like right when the surge was kicking off.
Yeah.
We were part of that. So I remember being in infantry school, and the instructors posted up that Marine Corps Times article from I guess it was early 2007 that said every Marine to war, and we're like, everybody was fired up about that. Going through infantry school, you wanted to go get some, right? But when I was in infantry school, I close to graduation and get a text or get a message from somebody back at the unit, because like I said, I joined the reserves. I was with 123. I was going to attach to 123 Alpha Company. It was going to be my drilling unit, and got a note that it was like, hey, you missed the cutoff time to get orders to deploy. So I was pretty bummed towards the end of infantry school and graduated. And when I came home, went and attached to the unit, we went and met with the first sergeant, and he confirmed, no, you guys, it was 2 or 3 of us that went to the SOI together. And he said, no, you guys aren't going to go. And, you'll just be back here. You may become a combat replacement if we need you. And so we were just kind of on standby. And it wasn't even a week and a half later, I'm at a friend's house, and we're cooking on the grill, and I'm looking at applications, trying to, figure out where I'm going to go work, because my plan was to go, get deployed. I was hoping to get deployed or find a unit to attach to, but they weren't going to let that happen. And so I was actually looking at a DOE, a Department of Energy job, and a stack of papers about 2 inches thick with your background check. And it was before, you did it online. And I'm sitting there chatting with my friend about it. And he's like, yeah, I got you the application. It's, for the Department of Energy. We do guard duty, and, you've ran a SAW before. Now you know how to run, we can use you out there, and decent money for the pay. And so I get a phone call, and it's from a Houston number. Don't recognize it. And so I answer it, and guy answers, he says, hey, this is Sergeant Zavala with 123. He goes, with Sergeant Zavala with 123 Alpha. Just wanted to check, make sure you're going to be here on Thursday. This is like a Tuesday. He'll make sure you're going to be here on Thursday. I'm like, sure, Sergeant, what's going on? He's like, you can't come sign your orders. My orders for what? And he's like, for Iraq. So I had about a day notice, a day and a half notice that, oh yeah, no, you're going to deploy. So
classic.
The green weenie definitely was striking my first time. And, so yeah, I showed up at the drill center, and we, that deployment's, we actually used our unit was attached to 323 Lima Company out of Alabama. And, it was a really interesting experience. I mean, it was my introduction to, reserve life / activation, not really truly active duty. A lot of the guys were former active duty, but the CO was amazing. And, in fact, the CO at the time, his name is Major Kevin Gerard, and he's now a lieutenant general in charge of the 4th Marine Division. He just took command. So we were in good hands. A lot of confidence in our leadership when we deployed. He was no frills. He trained us hard, ran us, prepared us really well. I was very impressed and really enjoyed being in that unit. And so we ended up deploying to Haditha, and it was pretty calm. We got there at the beginning of Ramadan, and we were getting the letters, like they were sending messengers to send letters to the unit, like the streets are going to run blood with the infidel blood, and the rivers will be stained red and all that. But nothing really ever happened. It's pretty calm. We had consistent presence patrols. We had a foot patrol in that town in Haditha. At least one patrol was present 24/7 every single day. There was always a unit out unless the air went red. So it was very well managed. The AO was very well managed. And we had a fairly tight grip on things in the city. But I think one of the things that stood out the most to me about our work up to that was my squad got chosen to go to the Special Operations Training Group, the SOTG Amphibious Raids course at Onslow Beach there in North Carolina. And that was a blast. Like, it was the first time I really got to see what big boy rules were like in the military, where you kind of own your own program as long as you perform. And the amphibious raids groups with the ribs, the rigid hull inflatable boats with the Zodiacs. And we got to learn all about that, do the boat drills, the high carry, run around with a boat on your head, and surf drills, paddle drills, nighttime, beach landings, everything. It was a blast. And we actually got to utilize that. We all should have rated an extra MOS for being a coxswain, and didn't get it, of course, but we still rated it. And we got to perform amphibious raids up and down the Euphrates in multiple areas of operation, which was a blast. It kept me from being on post all the time or on foot patrol, which I did my fair share of both. But
I remember always flying over those rivers, and like, it's just so hot, and you look at the river from the air, it's like clear water, looks very refreshing. And I'm just probably completely polluted and gross, and who knows what's in there.
At that point, stacked with rotting bodies all the way up and down the thing.
Yeah, there's dead cows. There's like, it was pretty gross. It was beautiful water though, crystal clear.
Yeah.
There were ducks everywhere, seagulls all the way up there, up that far up from the coast. The seagulls were all over the place.
I flew down to Basra once, and I was flying over these wetlands that when Saddam was the dictator, he had dammed up the Euphrates further north, and all these wetlands like dried up. And then after the America invaded, they opened those floodgates and flooded it back to its original. And it had been like 3 or 4 years by the time. And I remember flying over, and there was water buffalo all in there, and like flamingos. Like, I just would never think that you'd find flamingos in Iraq, but sure as shit in southern Iraq, there's flamingos. And the whole time, I'm sure everybody's got their story, but Iraq is, and Tyler and I have talked about this, Iraq is not the same experience as Afghanistan. And I felt like Afghanistan, everything there was trying to kill you, from the terrain to the people to the, like, just everything in Afghanistan is a completely...
Well, it's a whole different world. It's like 5,000 years in the past.
Yeah. And they're still there.
Yeah.
And not a lot has changed other than motorcycles, cell phones, and cars, and and radios.
Yeah.
And
that's their preferred. That's like the shithead preferred mode of transportation is motos. They get on, like, it's almost a safe bet if you're an Afghani riding a moto. Like,
we used to infill those guys on their own little motos, like those little shitty dumpy motorcycles that they had. Yeah. One dude ran me over when he was coming off the ramp, so I fucking grabbed his handlebars and jacked him to the side, and he just went ass over tea kettle off the back of the helicopter.
Yeah, we called them Hellman Davidsons for the Hellman Province.
You did Afghan. Were you in? You guys were. Where were you guys in Afghan? I'm sure in Helmand, right?
Yeah. So we started off in Sangin, and it's in the Helmand Province. And it was definitely the Wild West in Sangin when we got there. That's when 3-5 was taking like significant casualties. We were doing our work up on the West Coast, and they were like, we were doing our briefings and getting ready to go, and they were like, the biggest killer right now is triple amputee. And it's just like, it's really difficult to imagine that was, that's what was taking out the majority of the Marines there. They took it over from 3-7 took it over. Unit 3-7 took it over from the Brits, I guess, a year prior. And then 3-5 came in along with some elements of 2-8 from the East Coast. And so when we came in, we were helping supplement. Like, our unit somewhat got divvied up. There was some that went to training battalions to train the A&A. Some of us were attached to 2-8. Some helped with 3-5. It was just a really interesting mix of.
What year was that?
That was in 2010, 2011.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was a shit show back then. It was pretty
wild. My introduction to Afghanistan, we flew in, almost crashed, trying to land at Camp Leatherneck or Camp Bastion, whatever you want to call it, as both at the time. So they peeled off. C-17 goes, or C-130 goes, and we end up diverting over to Kandahar. got stuck in these old tents, these old British tents with no air conditioner, no heater on the runway of CAF for a few days. We were trying to scram, you could see the mosque right outside the fence. It was just really wild. The reapers and stuff were, taxiing back and forth. It was just like, where the hell are we? Finally got out, got a bird in, went to Leatherneck for a little while. And, my introduction to Sangin Valley was flew in the middle of the night, blacked out, landed at Fob Nole, unloaded our gear, ran inside just into the, basically the tents, the Quonset huts, basically. And, woke up the next morning freezing because we didn't have any, we left our gear in the airfield, and was walking around trying to find find the rest of the guys because they split us up, and looking off, and Fob Nole is up over Route 611 and overlooks the part of the valley, the Helmand River Valley. It's pretty much a high point, and there's two or three large buildings that they actually took. The Brits paid off some of the local opiate drug dealers, like the opiate kingpins in the area, and basically bought the houses from them. And so I had to go take a leak and found the piss tubes, and I'm looking over the fence into the valley, and a firefight breaks out, like first light. And I'm just like, oh, okay, we're here. We're in Afghanistan now. Like I'm sitting there taking a leak and watching my first firefight in Afghanistan. So it was wild. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys remember that Bastion attack when they blew up that Harrier?
Yeah.
And those Taliban guys came in and they were wearing Army ACUs, and
Yep.
that was just
that was what, 2012 or so?
Yeah,
it was long after I left.
Yeah, I stayed in 2010, spring of 2010 is when we did the Kajaki wine mixer, and that's when I ended up having to sleep at. Did
you hang out at the dam?
We were there for a minute, and it was real spicy, and then it went our way, but it wasn't going our way, but it went our way, and then my helicopter stopped working, and I spent the night on Leatherneck.
Yeah, I only ever got gas there. Like, we were at Kandahar the whole time, and but so. Really, the whole point of you coming on is to talk about your experiences, after this. And so, and we can talk about, I think some of these experiences will kind of roll into what your experiences in Afghanistan and Iraq. But what was life like as you came back? Because I'm imagining it's probably the same story most folks have to some degree or another.
Yeah, for sure. There's usually a common theme, right? But I think it's important to note that prior to my deployment to Afghanistan, I had come home from Iraq, started working in the oil field actually, and it wasn't that much long. Year and a half later, we started got activated for the work up to Afghanistan, which in Marine Corps times, that's an eternity, right? Usually the Marines are cycling in, do 7 months, come home for 5 and start their work up and go back again. So we were fortunate in that regard. But when I came home, it wasn't that long after I'd been home and started working in the oil field. I actually met the woman that would become my wife. And so we started dating, and things got real serious real fast. I knew from the beginning, like the first date, I was like, yeah, I'm going to marry this woman. I knew from the beginning. And so we got serious, and but she did understand. I'm still in the Marine Corps, and things could, I could deploy again, and there's a possibility that she may not have me to come home to one day. And so we decided to, after about a year of dating, I proposed, and we were getting close to my activation date to get orders. And so, it was actually her family like, hey, why don't y'all just go ahead and get married? Instead, we had it planned. We were going to get married in August, and then we'd have a couple of months before I activated. And so we did. We had a private ceremony at her parents' house, and had a couple of friends show up, and they had a whole bunch of friends show up. It was supposed to be our small private wedding, but there was like 30 people there, but it was a blast. And so we just had a small, reception, and then her and I had a short honeymoon in the hill country of Texas, out in the beautiful hill country. And then I moved her up to Dallas, where I was actually living at the time. And we had a few months together up there. And then I didn't want her to be there by herself when I was getting deployed. So I moved her moved her in with her parents back in Southeast Texas. And so, with that pending deployment coming up, man, it's like I really started, the anxiety level was starting to get up. I didn't know what it was going to be like. I had a friend with he was actually with 2-8 Fox Company, and they had went through the Ringer and Marja. I don't know if you guys remember hearing about the Battle of Marja, but I was just like, that was kind of my personal reference point to Afghanistan and what was happening there. And I was like, okay, well, it's the Wild West and things are going to be real. So, I was trying to mentally prepare myself for that, and started really at that point detaching, from my wife. And I guess this will, it'll play into kind of everything that happens downstream, but I'm real good at disassociating, and I'm real good at not talking about things like most guys. I don't have that skill set innately, and I don't like talking about serious things, which is imperative in a marriage, right? So, got activated, went to the West Coast, and it was basically zero communication from me. I didn't want to talk, didn't want to tell her how I was feeling or talk about what I was anticipating. I was just wanting to train one of my guys to train and try to be there for him and try to be as good of a leader as possible for my guys in my squad.
So when you're doing your train up, are you still like, you've stopped working your job at the oil field and you're back
Correct.
to being a Marine full time?
Correct. Yeah.
So when you come home as a reservist, is there like a cool down period, or are you just kind of like home, you had a couple of days on base and then you're just back out to the oil fields or something?
So you're talking about like my post-Iraq deployment?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have I think they give you about a 90-day, I think it's 60 to 90 days without having to check in. And then after that, it's back to the 1 weekend a month.
Yep.
And then the 2 weeks to satisfy your drilling requirements, 2 weeks a year. So you go to your annual training for 2 weeks. So yeah, they give you a little bit of downtime to kind of decompress from the deployment. But yeah, it's kind of, you're getting back, and hopefully you saved your money from your deployment, and then you go back to work. And
was it weird? Because you're just because you're not even going into a job for those 90 days, right? You're just kind of like, are they paying you?
Yeah, you're still being paid from the Marine Corps. You're still considered under orders, because our orders last for a full 12 months. Okay. But we only deploy Marines only do 7-month deployment.
Yep.
Yeah. So you do lose your combat pay and the tax-free status once you get back to the States. But, they could have stretched out our demob. I could have stayed in the East Coast for 4 extra months, but they didn't do that. So yeah, it's an interesting transition to make, because you're like, okay, now I got to go play civilian. Like, how do I do that?
Right. Exactly. Because at least we would go back in uniform and do Army stuff. Right. So my day job is Army. So it's familiar. And everybody around you is doing the same shit versus like, hey guys, I'm back. How was
everybody life moved on? Yeah. Civilian life kept going. Right. And I'm trying to reintegrate into that. Nothing stays the same. Right. And so, yeah. And I think for me, I'm thankful that I got a job in the oil field. I did it with a service company. I wasn't actually a driller, but I worked on the rigs as a logging while drilling engineer. And so, they work 12-hour shifts. They call them towers, 12-hour towers. But it was a pretty fun industry to be in. It's still kind of the Wild West on some of the U.S. land rigs. Safety's kind of an afterthought, or it was back then. And, and there's a lot of shit talking. The guys are rough. And it made it actually that for me, it probably couldn't have gone better as far as a transition back home to have a job like that. Yep. And I like highly technical things. And so that was a good fit for me as far as a civilian career. But, in the back of your mind, you're always thinking, I know that there's going to be another deployment going. I mean, with the pace of everybody's, active duty and the other reserve units, you knew it was going to come eventually.
Yeah, especially in that time frame.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you did your Afghanistan deployment, and I'm going to kind of fast forward to that was in 10, right?
Yeah. 10 and 11.
10 and 11. So now let's fast forward all the way to 24 last summer. Let's go with last summer.
Sure.
Because I would say that last summer, just from my perspective, and I might be completely off, but I think last spring and summer was probably like your mental and emotional low point. I'm thinking, just based on our conversations, but it's
probably when I reached out and actually told people about it, other than my closest, the guys that are closest to me locally, or guys that I keep in touch with on a daily basis. But I would say it all, everything you experience and everything you see, what do you do with it? And my response to that was I put it down, put it away, don't talk about it, and unless I'm with the guys, don't talk about it. And if the guys I deployed with, like, and specifically the guys that were in my squad or in my platoon, developed real close relationships, especially during the Afghanistan deployment. And so when it really unraveled for me was the withdrawal, the Afghanistan withdrawal. I mean, I was glued to my television, glued to social media, glued to my phone, texting friends, texting, anybody I could think of, just like, what is going on? Can you believe this? And, seeing the images coming out of there, but then also hearing second and third hand, like, no, they're not showing everything. Like, we know the Taliban are executing infants in front of the Marines and daring them to do things about it. And like, obviously the media is not reporting that because it would make it a bigger shit show than it actually was. And, the real breaking point for me, I mean, I started drinking at that time because it was just like, what have we done? All this money, all these lives, these souls torn apart on both sides. Right. What's it worth? Like, why did we, I mean, it was just, I became a lot more introspective as well over the years as I had some time away from the military. I got out in November of 2012 and, so I had some downtime to really kind of process, but I didn't process in the right way. And what really undid me was the day my interpreter called me. And he's an amazing guy. He served us very well over there. He actually made it. He got his SIV. He was able to get over to the States, but his wife and baby did not. And he was distraught and asking, help me, like just desperate. And that broke me, man. Like, he was sending me pictures of his baby. He's sending me pictures of all their SIV documents. He's just, he's calling all of us, and we're calling. Like, I have friends that are connected, to people that were running in politics in Austin. And I'm asking them, like, can you reach out to their family? Can we try to do anything? And people are, trying to work each avenue. Do you know anybody that was with the unit at Kandahar? Do you know anybody? Is there any way to get them in? And by the time we were trying to establish these routes and these lines of communication, it was just, the Taliban had locked it down. I mean, there's just no getting in. And it broke me. Like, I don't know where it all came from, but it all came up. And my response to it was to drink heavily, to disassociate, to skip work, and it was to the point so bad that where my wife thought I was going to harm myself. And honestly, I didn't have an active plan to it, but I wanted to remove myself from the equation. And it was just because I felt like it's wrong thinking, right? When you look back at it, hindsight's always 20/20, but in the midst of that unraveling, you feel responsible for some of it, right? I didn't do enough, or I'm not able to help enough. And, yeah, man. I mean, my wife actually reached out to two of my close friends from the Marines, and they intervened in a very, very strong way. And they demanded that, look, man, you got to take care of you. Like, you can't keep going this way. Like, you need to get help. And I reluctantly agreed after some convincing of a really close friend of mine. And so I started seeking help, and they helped me get the help. One of the guys actually worked at a veteran counseling facility located out of Austin, and they ended up linking me up with one of the psychiatrists there. And she's like, was a lifesaver for me. She helped kind of pull me partially out of the pit. And, it wasn't just the service things that came up. It was my marriage was in shambles at the time, and it had been going that way for years, just because of how I am as a person and who I am, and my lack of, communication skills and my lack of empathy and all those things. And, at the time she's like, look, you're in a depressive crisis. You need to do something about this. And I agreed. And so, I've been anti-medicine, my whole life, as far as, SSRIs, any type of anti-depressant. But I agreed because I was so desperate, and I knew that if I did do something that I was going to probably not make it. And so I did get on an SSRI, and it was the worst thing I'd ever gotten on. I mean, I was falling asleep behind the wheel. I was, they joke and, Zoloft's generic name is called sertraline, but they joke and call it squirtraline because it trashes your stomach. I mean, it was bad, man. And finally, after probably being on it for a couple of months, I finally started to see a little bit of a cushion, just a slight bit of change, where I could actually kind of manage my emotions a little bit. But, as with all things, it didn't last. And so they upped my dosage again. And then they changed my medicine. I think I've been on 7 different antidepressants.
Yeah, that's like a common theme you see in every single one is they get on SSRIs, which is selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. I don't have that memorized. I'm reading it, but you hear that so much. We had a guy, Kagan Gill, on same exact story where it started with this, and then it's like the key, the fix for everything is, hey, just take this pill. And if it doesn't work, and I think what a lot of people kind of fail to realize is like, there's no science to prescribing stuff. They're just like, let's just try this and see if it works. It's like all trial and error. And then, there's obviously some educational, part to that they know, hey, this thing can generally work well for these, but nobody has a clue how it's going to react to your body. And that's why it's a trial. You got to figure it out. And, early on when my son was diagnosed with ADHD, I was like, hey, he has ADHD. And the doctor's like, yeah, we should put him on, Adderall. And I was like, yeah, are you sure? Like, he's like 6. And they were like, well, we'll try Vyvanse. And then they just tried it, and they're like, I was like, well, what's the protocol here? And they're like, oh, we'll just try it for a month, and if he doesn't react, we'll just up the dose. And I was like, yeah. And we tried it for like a month, and then I was like, yeah, fuck you guys. Like, I'm not letting you use my kid as a guinea pig and to try to, and we got off of it. But
when it
doesn't mean he didn't struggle, but
for sure.
When you got prescribed that, was that through the VA or was that through secondary?
At this point, I'd never been to the VA.
Okay.
I had refused to go to the VA. Refused to ever apply for benefits, anything like that.
Yep.
So no, it was through actually my my general practitioner doctor.
Yep.
And then I actually started talking to psychiatrist after that. Got my primary care doc to start me, and then I transitioned over to work with the psychiatrist, and that's when they started like, let's throw this against the wall and see if it sticks. Here's an adjunct chemistry to add to it, and see if that boosts it. And it's just like these side effects were, and it was insane. Profuse sweating, insomnia, or the opposite, where I just couldn't keep my eyes open. I couldn't.
You had all those side effects they advertise on TV. Side effects include sudden death, shitting your brains out, vomiting.
Exactly.
Bad heart, bad liver.
So when did you? Oh, I remember, but let's tell the folks. When did you decide to like radically try something and do like a psychedelic? Like what was that thought process, or how did that come about, and how did that work?
So after like my 6th or 7th, head med, and just wasn't working, I went back to the Zoloft because it seemed to be what was the most efficacious at the time. But I knew it was only going to last so long. I knew there was kind of a ticking, clock, an alarm clock was going to go off, and it was going to be, okay, we need to up your dose or you're going to find something else. And I really just started researching and looking, and I started seeing people that were, on social media as well. And we were talking about how much we dislike social media, but in this case, thank God for it, because I started seeing people utilizing psilocybin, which are, magic mushrooms, and other means to try to utilize these for some type of transformation in the brain chemistry or in the thought processes. And, the more I looked into it, the more fascinated I was by it. And I started reading books by Michael Pollan, How to Change Your Mind. There's also a Netflix series by him. There's a 3-part series about psilocybin, LSD, and something else. And I wasn't so much interested in the, things like LSD, anything like that. But the psilocybin definitely seemed like a viable option. It seemed like something probably easy to get. You could find it easily. But obviously I didn't know, what's the protocol? Do I do this on my own, or do I need to go somewhere? And I started seeing that there's clinics, and, none of it's real readily available. But also that's when I came across the options of people utilizing Ibogaine and also using the 5-MeO DMT. So the Ibogaine, they call it the grandfather of psychedelics. It's probably one of the most misunderstood. I say misunderstood from it's so advanced that they don't understand any of its mechanism of action. It's probably one of the most advanced pharmacologicals that's in existence per what a lot of scientists have been reporting. And the 5-MeO-DMT is actually the Sonoran. It's the venom from the Sonoran desert toad. So it's called the Bufo alvarius. And I think it was in the late 50s or early 60s when someone actually sought out the toad and
licked it, right?
No, he caught it and was able to you have to agitate the toad, and he put basically a glass up beside it and was able to get it to excrete the venom, caught it on the glass, let it dry, then he scraped it off, and you've got dried toad venom, and he smoked it. And he published his results, and it kind of became a thing from there. But when I learned about those two, I was like, there's no way. And I started watching videos on YouTube of people, smoking 5-MeO-DMT or people that used Ibogaine and hearing their accounts. And I'm like, there is no way in hell that I'm going to use this drug. Like, I don't care what benefits it provides because it sounds insane. And, from having a Christian upbringing and things, I'm like, one of my biggest fears was like, is this going to like open me up to some type of dark entities? Like, is it going to let me see weird things? And it was just really strange, strange concerns that were coming up in my mind, like this fear. But, the more I studied it and the further along I got, I wasn't getting better. And in fact, my marriage was still in shambles, being kicked out of the house multiple times. We're on the verge of divorce, on the cusp of it. And things at work are not going well. I'm totally detached at work. I just felt like life was just kind of over. I mean, I wasn't actively contemplating suicide, but I sure wasn't going to be upset if I just let the wheel of the truck go and I rammed off the bridge. It was one of those things. It was like, I'm not actively pursuing it out, but if something happens, I'm not going to be upset about it. It was kind of a passive suicidal ideation. And it was just a really, really strange and difficult place to exist in. And so started looking into it and found the organization called the Mission Within. And I ended up filling out the application on there. This was probably 6 or 8 months ago. So this is in 2024, and filled out the application for it. And I had seen a couple of other reputable providers for this. They operate out of Mexico because these are Schedule I drugs in the United States, which I think they're wholly misunderstood. Schedule I says that they're high potential for abuse or addiction, right? And if you ever partake in these, you will absolutely agree that there's zero potential for abuse for either one of these. And they're not pleasant to take. They're not something you can do and then go to work. It's something that's going to take a very large chunk of your time. And I'll explain that in a little while. But so I applied, and I also had seen, the cost of this to go to one of these providers, and it was pretty prohibitive. And we're talking to the tune of, 55. A lot of them will do veteran discounts because a lot of veterans started going to these, and $5,500 to $6,500, and this is just for a weekend. And I'm like, that's tough to stomach. I mean, I could throw
plus
it on
the airfare, right? You got to get the airfare.
You got to fly over to San Diego, and so I was just really down on it. And I'm just thinking, I don't really have any options left. But I still did it. They booked a discovery call with me, and I was going to skip it. Actually, that morning I was just in a bad mood at work. I was going to go out to my truck and take this call. I was like, man, I didn't cancel the call, so I'm going to just be respectful. I'm going to go ahead and take the call, and I did it. And within about 3 or 4 minutes into the call, I knew I was talking to the right people. I think one of the first, she starts asking me some questions about my experiences in the Marine Corps, just asking about, what have I done in the past for treatments and things like that, for depression and for PTSD. And she just stops me right in the middle of our conversation, and she says, "You don't know how to love yourself, do you?" And I about lost it right there. I've never had anybody just call me out like that, something that deeply personal. And she's like, "You need to learn how to love yourself." She said, "This is a really good first start, a good first step." And so, and then the next thing she said did make me cry. And I hadn't cried in years, right? She said, "Oh, also you qualify for our grant. There's a grant specifically for Marines, and a family has donated X amount of dollars to provide Marines with this treatment." And I couldn't believe it. She's like, "Yeah, all you have to do is just, provide your flight out here and we got you taken care of." And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm in, I'm going. And so, that was the beginning. They did a screening of me, went through all the steps of that, all the paperwork, and they were able to get me in on January 3rd, 2025. So flew out to California, stayed a night there. They picked us up the next morning. They do a full medical workup, blood work, EKGs. You're signed off on by a cardiologist. And Ibogaine is, again, it's a psychedelic, and the background of Ibogaine, it's from the Iboga root. It's found in parts of Africa, and it's actually a shrub, and they get it from the root of the shrub. And one of the biggest reason that they do this really thorough medical screening is because it's known to cause cardiovascular issues when you're under the influence of it. So they look at your EKG, and it will lengthen the QT interval on your heart rate, on your pattern, and it can cause you to go into cardiac arrest. I don't know the statistics on how many people would be affected, like percentage wise in general population, but it's enough to where they've taken all the preventative measures possible. And so once you're signed off on by the cardiologist, they look at your blood pressure, like I said, your EKG, all the above, go through your family. The cardiologist sits down with you, goes through your family history, very thorough questioning, and they ask you multiple questions in different ways to make sure you're not lying to them as well. Any family history of heart problems, what's your cholesterol look like? What's your blood pressure on a normal day? And then they'll take your blood pressure again. So it's thorough. And after that, we proceed down south of Tijuana and go to the location. And once you get there, they hook you up with a port for an IV because, again, they're going to provide you with hydration while you're on the medicine, as well as it's going to be with magnesium as well to help. It's going to be cardioprotective while you're under the influence of the medicine itself. And so go through a lot of, very intention. So let me back up a little bit. Prior to going, they set you up with coaching. So you have, they can't, if they're out of state, they can't call themselves counselor because they're not qualified for your state, or they're not certified in your state or licensed. But you go through a lot of intention setting, like why are you coming? What intentions do you have for yourself? And it's a very thorough process. And I think the outcome that you want to get from this medicine has a lot to do with how much work you're willing to put into it. And so at the time I was doing a lot of reading, a lot of introspection, a lot of praying, and a lot of reflection on, what I really wanted out of this experience. And they prepare you very well. Their coaches prepare you very well for what to expect, prior to, during, and then after. And you do integration calls after you get finished as well. Like when you come back home, I'm still doing integration calls now. I have another one. I think I have 2 more left post treatment. So when you get there again, they install a port, put a port in you for your IV. And also we go through a lot of breathing exercises. It's really important to focus on your breath because some of these experiences can be very intense. And how do you bring yourself back to the present? You remember to breathe, remember to be present, and what's real. Well, my breath is real. I can focus on that and bring myself back. So yeah, we do that. We do, we're fasting all day. So you're fasted whenever before you do the Ibogaine, and this is on a Friday night. And so we do what's called a fire circle, and we're given a good few hours to think about our intentions again and write those down and focus on those things that we're wanting to either confront or to leave behind or to improve, and whatever you want to focus on during the medicine journey. And so during the fire circle, we all sat around. It was myself and 5 other Marines. This was a Marine focused retreat. So it was really interesting. And it also shows you how small the Marine Corps is. Like two or three of the other guys, we all had mutual connections. You know, everybody knows everybody in the Marine Corps. And no matter when you served, it's pretty fun. But sitting around, it was really, I think one of the healing things for me was sitting around with 5 other grown men and them being very vulnerable and open about things they faced in their personal lives and their professional lives. You know, whatever it is they've been dealing with, it's brought them to this point to try to utilize these medicines. And that's just the beginning, right? It's just kind of the first step of, hey, let's open up, let's be real, let's be honest with each other and ourselves especially. And so after that fire circle, we shared that we would burn the things that we want to leave behind and burn our intentions as well, just as a symbolic step that we're ready to move forward and take the medicine. So after we finish that fire circle, they bring the medicine down, and so how they dose the Ibogaine is based upon your body weight. And so the founder of the mission within, his name is Dr. Martin Polanco. He's the one that founded this organization. He's on site, and they weigh out the medicine and bring it down. So you have your name on a bowl, and it has the Ibogaine in the pill form. And so Ibogaine is one of the main alkaloids in Iboga. It's the main psychoactive alkaloid. And so what you do is you take the Ibogaine, and when it processes through your liver, it becomes noribogaine, and that's the psychedelic that takes effect and sends you on your journey. So, do you guys have any questions thus far before?
How long does it take from the time you take the pill to where you start feeling it? Like, what's that time frame like?
So generally they say it takes, we're all fasted with very little water too. Just, you don't want to, because one of the main things they say you do is purge on this. You throw up. Everybody reacts differently to the medicine, but lots of people throw up. And so generally it takes about an hour. For me, it was a really funny experience. So we took the medicine, went upstairs, and everybody lays down. There was 6 beds. Every bed has an EKG machine beside it, has an IV bag ready. They have headphones, really nice headphones. They also have music playing in the room, but the headphones are playing the same music, and eye masks, because it's all closed eye visuals with Ibogaine. I've not heard of anybody say they've had open eye visuals with it. It's all internal. It's like you close your eyes, or you keep your eye mask on, and that's when you'll see these or have these experiences. And so we all lay down, get ready to hook the IVs into us, get the EKG leads on, and we're off to the races. And I'm laying there, and the music's going, and 5 minutes later, I hear somebody across the room sawing logs. He's out. Like, he's already out. I'm like, what is going on? Like, I thought this was supposed to be. Yeah,
that would be me. I'd be asleep.
It's like, you want to be surprised by it, I guess, when it wakes you up. But yeah, I'm laying there, and I have the worst headache. I'm in caffeine withdrawal because you have to come off all your medicines. Like, so SSRIs, so Ibogaine acts upon serotonin receptors in multiple ways. So you have to wean yourself off those. And that was probably one of the worst things I've ever had to do, was come off of an SSRI. It took a long time, and it was brutal. And also no caffeine. They don't want anything to raise your blood pressure. And I actually had cheated the day before and drank some caffeine on the way to the airport at 3 a.m. So I was in major caffeine withdrawal by that time on Friday evening. And I had the worst migraine from lack of caffeine and just dehydration and whatever else. And so I'm really uncomfortable. When I put my headphones on, I put my eye mask on, I lay back in the bed, I'm laying there, and I'm just uncomfortable. I can't get the headphones are uncomfortable. They're pinching my ears. I'm trying to adjust them. The eye mask is hurting the bridge of my nose, so I'm trying to adjust it. I'm just getting really frustrated. And I don't know how much time passes. I finally kind of relax a little bit, but my head is throbbing, and I'm laying there, and I think I fell asleep for a minute. And I wake up, and I hear somebody just start puking like crazy. So here goes. I'm like, okay, these guys are starting to get into this. They're dropping into the medicine. And I'm like, I'm not feeling anything. I don't feel anything. I don't feel any effects. I don't feel a buzz. I don't feel any indication that I am under the influence of a psychedelic.
We'll just take another handful. This obviously isn't working.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm getting frustrated, and I'm laying there and the music's going. I keep taking my headphones off and taking my eye mask off. And one of the nurses, they have a staff on site as you're there all night long. They have EMT, a couple of EMTs, a registered nurse, and the doctor is there as well. And she comes over. She's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm just really uncomfortable." And she's like, "Are you feeling anything yet?" I'm like, "No, I'm not." And she's like, "Okay, well, just try to relax. Let me take your blood pressure." My blood pressure is like 178 over 95. I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I'm not getting anxious. I'm like, "I don't know what's wrong with me." And she's like, "Just try to relax. You'll be all right." So I put the eye mask back down, lay down, and somebody else starts throwing up. And one of the key indicators they've told me was, you're going to hear this buzzing sound. Whenever the medicine starts to take effect, you're going to hear this buzzing in your ears. It's like a metallic bee, like almost like a hummingbird with metal wings. Well, I'm not hearing any of this. I'm not feeling anything. So I'm getting pissed and I'm uncomfortable. I don't know how long I'm laying. There's no clocks. I don't have a watch on. We've turned our phones in so we can try to be, present for the whole experience, not distracted. And I'm laying there and my mind starts racing. And I'm like, you know what? I think they gave me a placebo. There's nothing happening. Everybody in here is starting to, I feel like everybody in here is starting to have these, whatever these experiences. And that's why they gave me that grant. That's why I'm here for free, is I'm a part of a double blind study. And, my mind is just going 90 miles a minute and I'm pissed. I'm like, I cannot believe I take my mask off again. I'm laying there looking around and she comes back over. She's like, "What's wrong?" She goes, "Are you seeing things yet?" I'm like, "No, I'm not seeing anything." And she's like, "Okay, we'll give it 15 more minutes. And, if you're not feeling anything or seeing anything, let me know." And I'm like, "Okay." She's like, "Well, I'll come check on you." So I lay back down and I'm like, all right, I need to breathe. I need to calm down. I'm getting mad. And she comes back over and she's like, "Are you I guess it's been 15 minutes. I don't know." Because you really start to, in hindsight, I'm absolutely starting to become under the influence of this medicine. I have no idea. And she comes back over and she has something in her hand. She's like, "Here." And it's another pill. And I'm like, I can barely see. It's dark. The room is dark. There's candles everywhere. It's just a real neat ambiance and the music's playing. And I'm looking at this pill and there's nothing hardly in there. I'm like, she's like, "It's a booster. You should take it." I'm like, "Okay." So I take it and reach over and grab my water and take a sip of it. And she's like, "Okay, everything's going to be okay. Go back down." And I'm like, "All right." And I'm laying there and I start to think I feel something, but I'm like, I really got to take a leak. And so they have puke buckets and they have basically a urinal, it's not a bedpan, but it's like a little small plastic urinal. I'm like, there's a woman in here. I'm not going to pee beside my bed. I'm fine. I can get one of the guys to come unhook me and I'm going to go to the bathroom. So I kind of raise my hand and somebody comes over. And so he's like, "What do you need?" I said, "I have to go to the bathroom." He's like, "All right, come on." So he gets me unhooked from the EKG, takes my IV out. And as soon as I try to stand up, I can't. And so one of the other classic side effects of this is ataxia. You lose muscle control. So he helps me get up and I'm shuffling my feet like a baby. I cannot walk hardly on my own. He's holding me and I start cracking up because I'm like, whoa, this is wild. I've never felt like this before. So I go to the restroom and I have to brace myself against the wall. That's how, I started feeling the vertigo from this. And, none of this sounds pleasant thus far, right? And so I turn to go back to where he's standing at the entrance of the restroom to bring me back to the bed. I'm like, oh, I don't feel good. Okay. And so I'm like, do I go to my bed or do I turn back around and hit the toilet? Because I'm going to throw up. And so the shortest route was the toilet. So I turned back and shuffled myself and almost fell. And by the time I got to my knees, I was throwing up. And I threw up once and dry heaved twice and kind of hung out there for a few minutes. And it was the most bitter taste I'd ever had in my life. And it was the Ibogaine that I hadn't fully digested from the booster. And so I finally get up and I'm even more dizzy and unable to control my muscle movements. The gentleman escorts me back over, takes me to the bed, hooks me back up. I lay down. As soon as I put my mask on, the music is jamming. There's this tribal music, this African tribal music. And I just start kind of jamming to it. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. This is, I'm starting to drop in. I don't even realize that I'm probably being this dork over here, bouncing my head and my knees around. Right. And as soon as that starts happening, I start getting these visuals and it's like I'm seeing faces and words and shapes and colors just coming at me. And now it's not like I'm flying. You think of the picture of like in Spaceballs where they go plaid and they're flying through space all fast. It wasn't like that. It was like things were coming at me. And I couldn't fully make out what they were, but they were shapes and faces. And I'm like, all right, that's pretty cool. I mean, it was disorienting, and I was seeing colors and flashes. And I was like, all right, I'm here. This is a little wild. I've never had anything like this happen before. And then it all stops. And what's really interesting is how the brain works, because we're listening to this music. We have these headphones on, and this playlist is unbelievably wild. And, the music shifts, and at the same time as it shifts, it's like a movie. These visuals shift for me, and I see things going from left to right. So that was one of the common themes all night long, is when I would see, it's like almost like a movie reel. You would see things, but they would go from left to right that's how we read, right? I mean, in the States, in the West, we read from left to right. I guess that's what my brain was trained to do. So it continued to do that. And, the first thing I saw that I could make out was a black man in traditional African dress. And he had this huge headdress on, and it was like orange and yellow, like, brown, orange, and light yellow and all that. And he's jumping across my field of vision. And as he's jumping, he's reaching up towards the stars, and he's looking at me, and he gets down. He does it again. He does it over and over again. I just start crying, laughing, like I'm just cackling at this guy I don't know why. It was hilarious to see that. It was unexpected. And anyway, he jumps out of my field of view, and he's gone. And it's just pitch black again. And one of the things that during my coaching calls, and they were preparing us for, my coach was amazing. Her name is Cynthia. And she's like, of all things, don't be fearful. She goes, be curious. If you see something that scares you, be curious about it. If you see something that looks great, be curious about it. Like, just be open to whatever the experience is, and you're going to get something from it. And, one of the things they tell us as well is, like, you're not going to get what you want out of this medicine. It's going to give you what you need. And that was extremely true. So at that point, I'm like remembering, okay, I want to be curious. And she said, some people are going to have a very interactive experience. Some people are not going to see anything. Some people are going to be sick all night. And that's okay, because the science is there. The changes to your brain happen. It breaks up that default neural pathway in your brain and allows your brain to communicate and neurons to fire like they haven't fired before. Quick side note, just a study came out this week, actually. And 2 MS patients went down to one of the Ibogaine clinics there in Mexico and had their Ibogaine experience. And they did an MRI pre-Ibogaine and an MRI post. And I think it was like a couple of months post Ibogaine, and their lesions in their brain have shrunk. It's just, nobody understands what this medicine's capable of, but they know it's doing things. People with severe TBI who couldn't stand being in the sun can now go out in the sun without glasses, and just people that have had debilitating migraines and, whatever, it's doing miracles. It really is. And so for me, I recalled that, hey, I might be able to interact with this and just see what happens. And so in my brain, in my mind, I said, okay, what do you have to show me? And as if on cue, it's as if I'm standing on a cliff, and this huge horizon in front of me. It's pitch black, and the most brilliant white and yellow lights go off. Like this horizon just lights up brilliantly. And it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. I mean, in my head, I'm seeing this. And at the very next second, as if on cue with the music, these firecrackers start going off in the horizon, and it spells out MOM. And I was like, no, hell no. No. And the background to that is that I don't have a relationship with my family very much anymore. With my mother, we haven't spoken in close to 9 years. Just a real toxic relationship. And I didn't want to confront. I didn't want that to come up. I thought for sure my visuals or my experience is going to be about my marriage, about my deployments, about the things I've seen and done. And it was about, that first thing was about my mom. And I was like, no. Mm-mm. And I heard a voice from the right-hand side, wherever it was, tell me, you should love her for what she tried to do and how she tried to raise you. And I just was instantly had this love come over me because I miss my mom, man. Like, you know, it sucks that we don't have a relationship, but I had this instant like empathy for her. And just as soon as I started processing that, everything goes black again. And these 3 pictures pop up, and they're all of my mother. One is of her as a child. It's a picture I've seen in the past of her as a child with glasses and a skirt. The next one is her as a teenager. She had bleach blonde hair. And I remember that picture from, my grandfather owned a hotel in Florida years ago, and my mom was on their brochure. I remember seeing that brochure when I was a kid, and that was the picture I saw of her. And then another one of her as like a older teenager. And it was just like this instant understanding of she's gone through trauma. Like, and the voice again said, she's been through more than you know, and you should love her. And I was just, you know, it really, it's really hard for me to talk about right now because I'm still, you know, being 5 weeks out from that experience, I'm still processing it, but this empathy for her and it's just this love for my mom that I didn't know I still had, you know, and it feels like, you know, I can forgive her for a lot of the stuff that's happened between us. And, you know, really looking back on it, you know, a lot of my hardships with my wife and things have really stemmed from, you know, lack of relationship with my family and the deterioration and loss of that. And, you know, I didn't know that at the time, but it was just really surreal. And it wasn't something that, again, it wasn't something I wanted to confront, but again, the medicine gives you what you need, not what you want. And, I just kind of sat there with that for a little while, and, that disappeared as well. And then the very next vision. So over time, I don't know what the time frame on any of this is. You completely lose any concept of time when you're under the influence of Ibogaine. So this could have been hours. This could have been minutes. I don't know. But the next thing that I see and that I recall seeing was my wife and son, and they were just sitting there smiling at me. And I was like reached out for them, and they were like, "No, you can't touch us right now." And they didn't say it, but I could intuitively feel that's what they were telling me. And I was confused. I was like, well, but they were still smiling. And so I knew there was a peace there, and I knew that it was okay. And then my wife points off to the right-hand side, and I'm like, and it was as if, again, it was intuitive, and it was as if to say, no, continue on your journey. We're okay. We'll be here. Like, we're going to be here for you. And I'm just like, okay. You know, it was just really heavy. And, but it was also really reassuring to see both of them. And it wasn't in a distraught or a sad way. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. That was, you know, to kind of go back, those first few visions, like of the African man and of the fireworks and of the pictures of my mom, it's like they were like looking through a dirty window or like a window with glass on it. Wasn't fully, you know, the acuity wasn't there. There wasn't really a clear vision. But when I saw my wife and my son, it was perfectly clear. Like it was just like being in person with them. And it was really beautiful. And just that message of, no, you continue, don't stop, don't stop exploring. And so I didn't. And, you know, I was like, okay, well, what's next? And again, I don't know the time frame, but the next thing that I remember seeing, I was in a room and there was a circle of men around me. And they weren't surrounding me, but I was in the circle with them, and I could feel their strength. Like these were good men. I could innately tell these were good men, and there was a strength to them, and there was a peace to them as well. It was just this, you know, peace and this lack of intensity in the room. And that voice came again, and it said, you need to surround yourself and your son with men like these in your life. And I just sat there, and I was just like, I mean, I have some good friends, and, you know, they're good guys, but it's just like, what does that mean? You know, what is this trying to, you know, what does this mean? And it came and when I was questioning that, it came and said, they need to be able to look up to other men just like they look up to you and your father-in-law. And I was just blown away. Like, surround yourself with a community of men. And I think that's, looking back, I've journaled all this, after the experience and reading through that again, and most recently. And it's like, what's the one thing most veterans lack? It's their community, right? It's that tribe. You were given a tribe of men that you lived with and ate with and did life with 24/7, especially on deployments and especially for your active duty guys. You guys basically grew up together. You became men together. And when you're out, you lose it. I mean, it's like they show you how to become a Marine or show you how to become a soldier, but they don't show you how to reintegrate into civilian life. And I really took that to mean like, I need to really take part in that and try to help other people integrate back into some type of meaningful relationships with each other and in a community that's like-minded. And it was just really a really pivotal moment for me during my journey as well, for me to look at what am I doing with my life and who am I surrounding myself with. And I'm not really surrounding myself with anybody, or I haven't been in the past. I was really good at isolating, and realized that the isolation brought me to the place of desperation where I was. I mean, it brought me to that place where things were not good. So one of the things I did forget was crazy that happened right when I first started seeing the initial visions was this feeling when I really knew that it was hitting me hard was I felt this burning and freezing simultaneously. Like it simultaneously felt like I was on fire and I was being frozen from about midway up my spine, and it started tracing up my spine into my head, and I broke out in this profuse sweating when this was happening. And I'm very conscious, like when you're under the influence of Ibogaine, you're very conscious that you're awake and you're lucid, but you can take off the mask and everything stops. Excuse me. But, so at the same time, I'm feeling this going, I think I'm going into cardiac arrest. I don't know what's happening here, because I feel this electricity from the back of my head tracing across my face. And it was like, when you see like laser engravers and it traces over a piece of metal or over something, you see it going over the contours of whatever it is. That's what it felt like. And I thought I was going to die, like for a minute. I was like, I don't know what's happening. And I'm just like, I'm tensing up and I'm pouring sweat. And once it reached my chin and my neck, it stopped. It was like somebody turned it on and then turned it off. And then after that's when I started having the really intense visions that I just described to you. But, yeah, I'm trying to make sure I don't forget anything, because it was just so much that, that happened. But,
so was the Ibogaine is separate from the 5-MeO DMT. We're talking two separate things and experiences.
Correct. So yeah.
So when you got done with the Ibogaine, did you like look down at your watch and see what the total time was, or was it just like? No,
I wasn't wearing a watch, and okay. I purposely did that because I didn't want to be,
you wanted to focus on.
I didn't want to control. I didn't want to try to control the situation. So yeah, so we took the Ibogaine around 8:00 on a Friday afternoon, and after all those visions and after all those experiences that I had under the influence of Ibogaine, I remember, I don't know if I fell asleep, because there's a lot of missing time there. But what I do recall is kind of getting a little restless and taking off my eye mask, and I looked, and I could see the light cracking through the curtains. I'm like, I made it to the next day. I didn't die. And so it was like, okay, well, I think I'm okay. And like, I wasn't. I was still fully under the influence of the medicine, and it probably lasted. And I mean, I didn't get out of bed fully till about 3 p.m.
So is everybody in the same room, like laying? It's like a open squad bay kind of setup.
It's a big room. It's a large room. It's like a 4-story house built on the side of a mountain. And so we're in the upper room, and everybody's in there. And sometimes some people are getting up. They're going to try to use the bathroom, being escorted back and forth. Some people are still purging. I was still, again, when I started seeing just a little bit of light through the curtains, I was like, okay, when I just put my eye mask back on and it would kick right back on, the visuals, hearing things, the music was still going. And I think it was probably around 9 o'clock that morning when I finally tried to I asked somebody to help me up, and it was still really difficult to get up because I was getting hungry at that time. I was starting to come to a little bit, probably, the medicine was starting to wear off somewhat. And the guys, they're like, do you want to try to drink a smoothie? I'm like, yes. They have somebody that, there's a chef there that cooks, and she was making smoothies and stuff. So they brought me one up, and they brought the guy next to me one as well. And I was able to drink some of it, and then I was back out again. I wasn't fully functional until, like I said, probably 3 p.m. that day. And they call the day after Ibogaine the gray day. And it's pretty appropriate because you're just in this really weird headspace, right? You're trying to process what you've experienced, what you've seen, what you've heard, and you generally don't feel great. It's not a fun, I will say for me, I had a great experience under the influence of Ibogaine. Again, it was interactive. Some of it was fun. Some of it was I never once got scared except for that experience with the laser, that burning feeling I had for just a few minutes. But, some of the guys had a really miserable night, but the changes were still there afterwards, which we can talk about when we get there. But, it's, getting out of bed that day, I finally was able to take a shower around 3:30 or 4 and, felt significantly better than I did early in the morning. But yeah, you're still in a very different headspace throughout the evening. And, it was even, around 3, when I got up around 3, I was still somewhat seeing tracers, that your visual acuity is off somewhat. And, we had, snacks and things like that upstairs, and we were going to have dinner that night. But before dinner, we all sat around and we talked about our experience. We were journaling throughout the day, and we had a chance to share and do some more breath work. And then we had dinner together. It was a really, really wild and truly life-changing experience for me. So that was for the Ibogaine. And that was, all day Saturday is kind of a rest day. The next morning, Sunday, is when we do the 5-MeO DMT. And so, that one was a totally different ride, and I didn't find it all that enjoyable at all. Some of the guys had an amazing experience with it, and I can't say it was great. It was very difficult for me, but they prepare you for it. Really focus on your breath, focus on your intentions and what you are wanting to get out of that as well. And we do that one by one. So it's a very personal experience. And so we're not going as a group like we did with the Ibogaine. And so that's done down in the very bottom floor, separated from everybody. So you can have, a sense of privacy, a sense of feeling open to whatever you need to do. If you need to cry or to yell or whatever it is that you feel the need to do, or whatever your experience entails, then you're open to do that. And so I went forth that day. And so you get 3 doses, and again, it's smoked. You're freebasing toad venom. And so the first dose is what they call a handshake, and it's a very low dose. I don't know the milligrams of it, but it's definitely weighed out. And it's just to give you a very brief, light introduction to what the 5-MeO DMT is going to be like. And so it's very taken very serious. It's administered by, she's a trained medicine woman from Mexico, and she's also a nurse. So she's serves multiple purposes there, but she's amazing. And she says a prayer over you. And she says, just take a few minutes to recall your intentions. And this is, you're sitting on a bed downstairs. And so you have someone holding space with you, and then you have her as well, the medicine woman with you. And she's like, just take your time, and we're going to breathe together. And on your third exhale, your fourth inhale is going to be where you take the hit. So you're going to inhale the venom as it's being, lit up. You don't burn it. It's in a glass container, and they vaporize it. You're basically vaping it.
So it's like a crack pipe.
It is a crack pipe, yes. It's a very stylish crack pipe, though. It's like you wouldn't see this on cops.
It's like the Marion Barry.
Yeah, you're not going to be, smoking crack with Marion Barry in D.C. with this. This is high class. Nobody
remembers that except for us. But,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Showing our age.
Dude, wait. Not to derail, but the mayor of Washington D.C. smoked crack, and then
with a prostitute.
Prostitute in like 90s,
yeah, it was
early 90s, late 80s maybe, and then got reelected. Like,
well, I mean,
if you ever want to know what's wrong with D.C., there you go.
Well, it's a person of the people, though.
I mean,
you know what I mean? Like, that's probably the most down to earth thing you can do as a politician is just do what everybody else is doing in your area.
Didn't Hunter Biden do that too? Like,
absolutely.
He got a pardon. I mean,
yeah. And Biden guns.
Where do I sign up? So
anyway,
so what? So you're down there with the medicine woman / nurse.
Yep.
And you take that first hit. So what happened?
You take as much in as you can, and you inhale it and hold it, and they count down. They start counting down from 10 to 1. They lay you back, cover your eyes with an eye mask, and when you hit 1, you exhale. And as I'm taking the first breath or first hit of it in, I kind of feel a little bit of my heart start racing, and lay back. And once I exhale it, it was probably the most anxiety and fear in a single episode that I've ever had in my life. Like, it just all rose up in me. It's almost indescribable. It's very difficult to put into words, that feeling, but it was anxiety, fear, and I have no idea what the hell is going on with my body right now or my mind. And it was short-lived because it was a small dose. And as I'm tapering off, as I'm coming, I hit the peak, and I'm just like, I don't like this. This is not comfortable at all, not fun. As I'm coming down, I'm thinking, I don't think I want to do any more of this. Like, I don't see what this is all about. I don't understand this, but I'm also thinking I want to be open to an experience that I don't want to miss on an experience or something that could really, because I remember the Ibogaine, how intense that experience was, and just that, all I can say is the Ibogaine experience was like many years of therapy within a night. I woke up having this weight lifted off my shoulders. And so I didn't want to miss there being something relative to that with the 5-MeO. And so I said, okay. And so you gather yourself, and you can take as much time as you need. And it's one of the great things. This is when they hold space for you during this entire weekend, it's done beautifully. These people they're there for the right reasons. They truly care. They want you to heal. They understand they're taking care of veterans almost every weekend down there. And it's just really a beautiful thing to see, man. And so they gave me as much time as I wanted. I don't know how long I took, but probably just a few minutes. And then I told them, I was like, okay, I'm ready. And so I set up and do the deep breathing again. And then on the 4th, so you have the second dose, and I'm inhaling it, and I'm talking, I wasn't even my lungs weren't even halfway full when I started seeing tracers and lights and things dancing in my vision. And I'm like, this is going to be rough. Take the hit. She covers my eyes. They lay me back and start counting down. And on 1, I blasted off. And opposite of the Ibogaine, when I felt that things were coming at me, I felt like I was launching on a 2,000, 3,000 mile per hour rocket through space. Like, I felt like I levitated off the bed. My whole body was vibrating. And as it intensified, I guess I was holding my breath because it was so intense. I remember grunting and like fighting against it a little bit. And, I heard her breathing, like she's trying to remind me to breathe. So I started breathing, and as I'm breathing, it just got even more intense. And I honestly thought that I was going to die. I thought I was dying. And after a minute, I was okay with it, but it was not fun. The anxiety and intensity don't compare to that feeling. I was literally vibrating. Like I remember, so we were talking about Zach earlier, and Zach was one of the gentlemen holding space there. He's the psychiatrist. And I asked him after the experience, I was like, was I like vibrating all over the place? He's like, yeah, you were, you were definitely, you were doing some movement there. But after I peaked and started coming down, I was able to breathe. I remember just holding my arms out as if just to like relax and receive whatever it was that I was trying to receive. And I got freezing cold, and I remember asking for a blanket, and so she gave me a blanket and covered me. And as soon as she covered me, I had a vision of a mother holding her child, and I immediately broke and started bawling. I just rolled up into the fetal position and started crying. And it was just that feeling of motherly love and of just peace and comfort. And, it was just, it lasted a really long time. It was very cathartic. It was to let that all out. And it wasn't just thinking of like my mom or of being comforted. It was also just letting out this emotion of, I was seeing things that had happened in the past. They were just kind of coming through my visuals and coming through my memory. And I'm just balled up in the fetal position crying. And there was no shame in it. There was no, embarrassment. I just let it happen. And it was probably one of the more beautiful experiences compared to the Ibogaine. I mean, it was just unbelievably therapeutic. And I remember just sobbing, and I took my eye mask off because I'm soaking it, and I'm like wiping my eyes. And as I wipe my eyes, I look over, and there's a window downstairs. This house is beautiful, but there's a window, and it was facing the west. It had to have been the west because the sun was starting to go down, and it's a circle, like a porthole, like a circular porthole with a window. And I looked at it, and the sun was immediately just perfectly positioned to shine through there. And I felt this warmth on my face, and I started crying all over again because I felt like the love of God, like just on me. And it was one of the most peaceful things I've ever experienced. And so I just started bawling all over again, man.
That's what, Kagan Gill, he was the episode before this one. If people want to go back and listen to his story of ayahuasca, it's very similar. And he said for him, what he thought was he felt like he had the shell on him, and that when he did that, the shell just broke apart and fell off, and he just felt like unconditional, like love. And I know it sounds like love and light, not the thing, but like there is a serious component to this and he said it was almost, I don't want to say verbatim, but really, really close to what you said, which kind of makes me think like, man, are you just shortcutting the distance to, God or higher entity, or did you associate those two, or do you think that was your mind, or what was that like?
No, I feel like it removed these barriers that I have to feel love, because I've always felt, growing up and even being married and having children, a kid and everything else, and even having friends, I always felt pretty alone. And I think that's how I've always felt like I've operated best. Like, let me do it on my own. Let me take care of it myself. Let me do these things. And it's also been a hindrance in my relationship with God. And that definitely, it just removed a barrier. And I didn't know it at the time until I looked up and felt the sun on my face. And it's like, I just felt this profound, presence and profound love of God. And, I've been a Christian since I was 15 or 16 years old. And I think it all just kind of came full circle that day for me right there. And, just being able to forgive my mom and being able to forgive myself mostly for so much that's happened and for the things I've done. I mean, I'm, done some pretty shitty things in my life. And I just was able to, what your friend said, like he was able to shed this stuff off. It just was removed almost instantly. And, it's very real. And, so as I start to come to a little bit more, and as I start to gather myself, I'm thinking, I don't think I can endure that again. Like, that was absolutely the most intense thing I've ever experienced in my life. And I've done some pretty stupid stuff throughout my life, and that was the most intense. And so, as I'm debating in my head, I'm sitting up, I'm wiping my face and getting the tears and the snot away. And I said, no, there's more. Like, I want to do it again. Like, I want to find, I said, I don't know what made me say this. I said, I want to find my dad. And I lost my dad 10 years ago to Alzheimer's and, dementia. And I've never truly grieved that loss because there was a lot going on at the time. I mean, quick backstory. It's just like when my father was diagnosed with it, I was in Afghanistan, and then we moved him to Texas, and, he died on New Year's Eve. And then my wife went into premature labor with my son at 32 weeks, like just a week and a half or 2 weeks later. And a lot of family things were going on. I mean, it was just a really, really intense time. I mean, nobody from my family showed up to my kid's birth. Like I said, I'm always felt alone. It's just like, oh, here's more validation of that. And so I never grieved my dad's loss properly. And always beat myself up for not spending enough time with him, because it just broke me to see him not know who I was, or not to know who he is. And he never forgot how to smoke a cigarette, but those habits never went away.
And to paint for the viewers, to paint a picture of Jeremy's dad, he always had this white work truck, like an all white work truck. And if you've ever seen the Marlboro Man, like with the lines on his face and everything, and like stone cold stoic, like your dad probably said like 10 words to me ever. And it would be something like, I'd come over to your house and, hey, I'd knock on the door. He's like, Jeremy's in his room. And then that would be like, but he would always have a cigarette. And he always wore his hat, like Marine Corps, like those, like not trucker hats, but those work hats he had. But yeah, I remember I feel like he always had like jeans on and like a button up short sleeve.
Yep.
Yeah.
I still have a couple of those.
But so was that your last thing on the 5-MeO DMT?
So yeah, I did the last dose. Like, after I made my mind up, I said, whatever was in me said, I want to find my dad. And so I told him I was ready, sat me up, took the last hit, and there wasn't the blast off. It was very strange, because they'll build on each other, right? You still have it in your system. The half-life is short, but it's still in your system. And so it would be more and more, it should, by theory, be more and more intense the more you do. And mine wasn't. There was still some of the visuals, but it wasn't the intense feeling of dying. There was a lot more peace. Like, it was very, I don't know the word for it, but it was almost like floating in the ocean without the movement. It's what it felt like. Very light, very weightless. And I was just laying there. And as I started coming down, I just saw my dad, and I just started telling him, I'm sorry. And I just started apologizing because I didn't show up for him. I wasn't there in I was there the day he died, but I wasn't there as a caretaker like my sister was. And I just started bawling again and started apologizing to him. And then I was like apologizing to my wife, and I was apologizing to family and friends. And it was just all this intense feeling of, please forgive me. I'm going to forgive myself. And I'm apologizing to myself for how I've treated myself over the years. And I just laid there and bawled again. And when I came to, finally, I looked at Zach, and I was like, I need you to take me outside. And he's like, okay. And so I went outside, and I just had to be in the sun. I just wanted to be in the sun. There was a pool there. I was out in the sun. It was beautiful, West Coast weather, 60 something degrees and a beautiful day. And I just sat there and just enjoyed it. They brought me a bowl of fruit, and it was probably the best fruit I've ever eaten in my life. And I just sat there with my thoughts, and I'm telling you, man, that those two medicines, having those two experiences has brought me further along in a healing emotionally than anything else has done for me in my life. I've been in counseling for years. I've tried medicines. I've tried everything else, but this truly changed the game. And, just, as evidence, coming back to, civilization, if you want to call it that, going back to California, I spent an extra couple of days there just to take my time and to really process. And I knew I was going to need some time to process everything, just based upon what my coach had been telling me and what I've been reading and what everybody says. And, man, there's this new peace that has settled over my heart and over my mind it was completely tangible. But there's like also a new confidence in there. Whenever I'm at peace with myself, there's a new confidence that came up, and, I can't describe it other than beautiful. Like, I don't know. I go back to what I said at the beginning when I was doing my screening with the Mission Within, and she told me, you need to learn to love yourself. And I finally understood. Yeah, this is what that kind of means. The medicines changed a lot for me, but it opened the door. And now I knew the hard work was going to begin once I got back home. And it's true. But I have the space for it. I have the agency to be able to control my emotions. Traffic. I used to have severe road rage. In fact, my wife, she wrote this 2-page letter for me today, just saying, here are the changes I've seen in you, and how, my wife actually likes to be around me now. And I can tell you that this experience with the Ibogaine and 5-MeO-DMT has been the game changer for my marriage. Absolutely. And it's because of what it's done for me and allowed me to see, and not just the behavioral changes. Those are huge because I'm able to be present with my family. I'm able to be present with my kid, but I'm not blowing up at every little thing. If my wife is triggered by something because of things I've done in the past, I'm able to be there with her and help her through it. And it sounds so weird, right? Because I'm the one that's caused most of her pain in our marriage, but she wants me to be there now to help her through it. And it's just profound. And, the biggest thing for her was riding around with, like, my road rage was insane. And now she can see a huge difference. When we're driving, it's not, I'm not like trying to teach other drivers a lesson. Like, I feel personally offended that you cut me off, and I want to show you that you're wrong.
I feel like that every day.
Oh yeah. And man, it's gone. And it's just, I had an incident the other day on the road. Houston traffic's ridiculous, but I almost was hit, and that anger came up for a second, but I was like recognizing it, able to put it down. And normally what would have lasted for an hour, like me seething over that supposed infraction upon my personal space, would have lasted all day. I would have been pissed, and it would have came home and I would have ruined my family's evening because of it. Cause I would have been in a bad mood. And yeah, it's not there anymore, man. And it's the biggest thing I can say is it gives you agency. Like, it has absolutely changed my thought patterns for the better. It's not like I'm not weird. Maybe I am weird, but it's not, it hasn't changed things in this obscure way. It's changed things in a very tangible and measurable way. And, I'm trying to see what else she said here. The biggest thing for her is she says, I'm no longer avoidant of uncomfortable emotions or conversations. And how else am I going to heal my marriage if I'm not able to have those hard conversations without, disassociating, attacking, whatever it is. And so, yeah, man, and that's the main reason that I wanted to share this with you guys and come on here, is because I think I'd be negligent if I didn't tell people that this is a real thing and it's just truly beneficial. Not saying that your experience, everybody's going to have a different experience, but I always go back to what I said earlier, is that you're not going to get what you want. You're going to get what you need out of it. And you have to be willing to put in the work prior to and after. And I'll tell you, man, it's like I desire to take time for myself and meditate and to like be at peace, to pray, to just be present with myself. And the rest of my day is wonderful after that. It's just like I crave those things. I've never been able to sit still for more than a few minutes in my life.
Yeah, that's been, I think Tyler's probably similar to this, is like you hear all the things that you're supposed to do, but when I try to do all the things, like people are like, you just gotta meditate, dude. That doesn't fucking work, man. Like if you have a brain like mine and like yours, and I don't know, Tyler, I think you're probably similar. Tell me if I'm off base here, but
I will.
When I try to meditate, like I'm thinking like every other thought that of exactly what I'm not supposed to be thinking about comes up, or I fall asleep. There's like, I don't walk away from it going, oh man, I feel centered. And I'm like, what the fuck did I just waste 15 minutes or like whatever the time was, you know?
I have certain times where I can get away with doing that and it like works. Like I can make the space to like sit there for 15 minutes and do the breath work and kind of push things out of the mind. But the majority of the time I feel like I'm just kind of have too much shit going on in my head and I don't want to sit with myself.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing. I did not want to sit with myself because I was afraid of what was going to come up.
Yeah. And you just don't want to deal with it. Like I don't have the energy to deal with the shit that might come up if I'm in tune with whoever I am today, right? Like if I sit there with myself and I'm like, I don't have the energy to fucking deal with me. Like I'll put me over in the corner. I'll go give some half-ass attention to my family that generally isn't anywhere what it should be. Right. You know what I mean? But it's,
yeah. And that's exactly where I was just a couple of months ago. And the change is so profound that, you know, I think, you know, it's profound. And when I came home, my 10-year-old who, you know, granted he's a very smart kid. He's probably more emotionally mature than most 10-year-olds I've ever met. But that being said, he told me like a week after I got home, he's like, Dad, you seem better. Like you seem happy and like emotionally better. He said emotionally better. And I'm like, number one, who are you? Number two,
what'd you just say to me?
Yeah. But it was just, that's probably one of the best things I've ever heard in my life is my 10-year-old telling me, hey, I'm glad you feel better. And it's just, man, it's unbelievable. I'm at a loss for words a lot of times for how I feel about the changes that it's made for me. And I still keep in touch with all the guys. We have a Signal thread that we chat on and the changes, like one of the guys, he hasn't been out in public hardly. He doesn't go to the mall. He can't go to the mall. He's like, I'm going to go get a pair of jeans. I haven't bought a damn pair of jeans in years because I'm scared to go. Not scared, but he just didn't, the intensity of that, that hypervigilance. And he took a picture of himself trying on a pair of jeans at the mall. And we're like, hell yeah, man. Like, it's wonderful to see these real changes in people's lives, man. And it's like, I don't know, what the future holds for me, but like, I definitely would like to become more involved in this space. And I don't know what capacity, if it's just volunteering or if it's just telling people, being an evangelist for it, but it's unbelievable what it can do for you. And, I'm a believer. I mean, like I said, I went from saying, hell no, I'll never touch this stuff because it looks crazy, to, if you don't at least think about it, there's something that you need to check yourself. You need to look at this strongly.
Yeah. The text you sent me when you got back was, I'll just read it here. This is Thad. I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm just illuminating terrain here. You really need to look into this treatment. It's profound. And then you actually mentioned about your son, same kind of thing. And just for the folks that if you are interested in it, you can go to themissionwithin.org. And it will tell you all about the process and the treatment. If you're interested, there's a little button that says apply now in the top right corner. You can just click on that. We'll put it in the show notes for you to make it easy. Also, and Jeremy, you were telling me about this. If you come from the special operation community, you can go, is it VETS? I always screw this up.
Yeah, I don't know if VETS provides grants to go to the mission within specifically, but yeah,
but
VETS, Veterans Exploring
similar.
Treatment. Yeah, so VETS does, that's by a Navy SEAL, Marcus Capone, and they provide grants for special operations to go to clinics that are very, very similar.
Okay. And I'll put those, their information in the show notes as well. It's a good resource. Just give it a shot. I think
it's worth mentioning too. A lot of people are like, well, we can't, depending, because whatever your job, whatever your civilian career would be, or even your military career, people are nervous about, look, I can't do this. It's an illegal substance in the United States. But I think it's worth mentioning that, things like psilocybin, which are magic mushrooms, they don't do that there. But the Ibogaine, as well as the 5-MeO DMT, are not detectable in a traditional 12-panel drug test. So, or a hair follicle test. There's very specialized testing that has to be done to detect these molecules. So I think it's worth putting out there.
Well, and to kind of at the same point, like, to what end is your job more important than coming out of the back end of that? You know what I mean?
And that's exactly why I agreed to come on here. Look, I get hair follicle tested multiple times a year in the industry I work in, and I don't care. Like,
yeah, I
don't care. Like, I'm happy. I'm healing. My family's healing, and that's worth more than a damn job.
Yeah. And then it opens up all those other doors, and the things that you might be, what you've been holding yourself back from this whole time might open up a door to where you can tell that job that you really just need to fill the bank account to fuck off, because I'm going to go do something else. You know what I mean? Yep. And that's
absolutely,
at the end of the day, that's far more important than, going down that dark hole and never coming back out.
Yeah, man. And that's why I said, I would feel negligent if I didn't tell as many people as I can that this is an absolute viable option. And it's more than viable. It's absolutely, it works. I would encourage everybody to at least look at the studies.
Yeah. I think for me, I was kind of, cause you were like, hey, come on, let's go down there together. And I kind of chickened out just because I was like, it's all the same reservations you had. I just, but when you hear somebody that you personally know and you hear their account, it kind of is like, yep, I'm going to do this shit. Just kidding. FAA, if you're listening, totally not.
FAA, I'm totally going to do it. And then I'm going to get in a helicopter and fly around so you can fuck right off.
Yeah. You're fired. But this is a little tongue in cheek, but I feel like the whole time I would be doing it, I would be in my head playing Cypress Hill, but like,
how I could just kill a man or something like that.
Well, I recently, like when Cypress Hill was big, I never really liked them.
What?
But like in the last 6 months, I've been listening to a shit ton of Cypress Hill.
You're like that dude in Office Space.
No, I'm like the guy in that movie Falling Down.
Michael Bolton.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm Falling Down. What's that guy? What's
Michael
that guy's
Douglas.
name? Michael Douglas. Yeah. Like, I feel like that's me right now.
That's not a good place.
Yeah, I just want to get to work.
Yeah,
I just want to have breakfast.
Yeah, and he goes in there, and that's such a great movie. If you're, if you guys have never seen Falling Down, it's a must see movie. Yeah. It's definitely good, but
timely.
Dude, I'm super excited for you. I'm super happy. I can tell, and just in your text and everything. And it's not to say that there's not still, struggles with daily life. I mean, shit still happens. But it sounds like you're in a much better place, and it sounds like it's got some legs to really kind of change, for the better. And if your wife is saying those things, and, just me personally knowing you and the backstory there, that's massive. So I'm super pumped. I'm super excited for you guys. I want this thing to keep going, and, I'm going to I want to look into this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say it again, the real work is now for me. Like it started when I got home, but I have the capacity to do it, whereas in the past I didn't.
Yeah.
And I want to do the work.
Yep. I think that's the thing, is like, you got to put the work in, and a lot of times, like even with me, like I just don't have the wherewithal to do it. Like I'm smoked.
You're operating at a deficit like every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they talk about the last guy, a couple guys ago, we were talking about, energy deficits or whatever, energy cups, right? Like you only have so much energy you can put, you can only have so much energy you can put out in a day. And when I wake up and I don't have energy to put into any of the cups, but I still have to get those cups full, or at least, it's a lot of take and take. There's not a lot of give and take.
Yeah. And you learn to be I've learned, and you would learn to be a lot more kind to yourself as well, which these are, phrases that I'm saying sound almost cliche, but it's real. And it's not something I believed. I didn't believe it was possible. It's like, no, you have to be hard. You have to push. You have to, keep going regardless of the consequence. And now I'm like, no, it's important to take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of the ones that are most important to you.
Right.
Yeah. I definitely, and I'd be remiss if I didn't go back and say on the meditation front is Tim Thomas was episode maybe 31. Tim Thomas is 31. And he's the breathwork guy, the 2 commando dude from the Australia Special Forces Regiment. And I will say I've done his breathwork, and that is the only time that I can actually meditate, because I'm concentrating on breathing, and it puts me in a different headspace. So
you're looking at the present moment, like what's present right now, like what is real, and that's my breath. Yeah.
And I would say that, like, if you've listened to that episode or go back and listen to it, we actually do a breathwork thing, and you can hear the full breathwork on our website, aloneandunafraid.org. You can go in there and listen to it. But, that one is the only time that I actually really, and when you're concentrating on the breathing, like I can actually feel the back of my sinuses because I'm breathing that deeply. And it sounds super corny, but just the point of focusing on the back of my sinuses or my nose, it takes you out of the moment and kind of chills you out. And if you do it before you go to bed, like you're sawing log. I don't really have a problem falling asleep. A lot of people do, but, you're sawing logs. And I would say that I had I'm like a data nerd, and I had a 27% increase in sleep. So
he crunched the numbers. Yeah. And I think the crazy thing to point to that is like finding a way to be present, because really the only time I can remember being like actually present and in the moment and just kind of focused on the here and now is like a firefight. Right. Yeah. It's like, those are the only times. And if you think about it, like that's fucked up. Like the only time I ever felt like, hey, I'm connected to the situation immediately and everything kind of like zeroes out. It was, when somebody's trying to kill me. And that in itself is it's a weird thing.
Yeah. I think for me,
so to like have that without any of that shit and to be able to do it like in a positive way.
That's way better.
Would be, amazing. Like, I don't know. It's weird.
Well, dude, I'd be remiss if I do have something else, but before, I'll just get to it. So I would be remiss if I didn't also tell everybody that Jeremy is one of the founding members of Team Butthead skate team, which is me, Jeremy, and this guy Kevin Wilson, and we were there was a point in my life where I thought I had a shot at being a professional skater, and the reality is I was terrible. Like,
we were good. Tres Vatos Locos.
I was not.
That was our skate
that was your skate team.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Did you have a mascot?
Yeah, we had a mascot.
No, we didn't have a mascot.
Yeah,
we just skated too hard, We didn't have time for mascots.
Do you still have any of those drawings? I still have some. I'm gonna go get them out of the attic. I'm gonna put these in the show notes if I can find them.
I'll post them on the gram.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh shit!
That I have a Fudgy logo somewhere. It was like a little butt with eyes and a mouth and little arms and legs. And we used to.
He'd pick himself.
Yeah, we would. Yeah, it wasn't good. Sometimes I think I want to go back to high school and see if our stuff is.
We probably need to put it on a t-shirt.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I might have a picture of it somewhere. I could find. If not, my stepdad does. He will probably have one of those that he could send me.
You've got to dig it out, man, because I haven't seen any of that in a long time.
Yeah. But
get some decks made up.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, man. Let's get some Team Fudgy decks or whatever. Team Butthead.
Team Butthead, dude. Team Butthead.
All right. Consider it done.
Yeah. And this was, I want to say this is before Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, it was.
It was probably before Beavis and Butthead.
So you guys are the inspiration for Beavis and Butthead?
Dude. Yeah. They were like, hey, there's like 14-year-old kids from North Carolina who are skating.
Mike Judge.
Yeah, he was like,
he's from Texas, so
they're like, these dudes are where it's at.
It's all starting to make sense.
Yeah, but dude, hey, Jeremy, thanks for coming on, dude. I think it was an awesome thing, and I've never had anybody explain it. Like everybody talks about it, but nobody goes like by the numbers through. And I think now that if people hear this, if you're interested, check out the Mission Within.
Yep.
And go to their website, themissionwithin.org, try it out, see what you get. And if you're a Marine, there's a scholarship, man. There's an app for that, dude. I'm sure they have other things. And if not, check out vets, just any kind of Google search. It might just be the thing you're listening or you're looking for. So get out there and do good things. Before we get out of here, you got any closing comments, Jeremy, or anything you want the world to hear? Or did you sound like you got it pretty good earlier, but
yeah, I just think we need to push for legislation to be able to bring this stuff to the States. I don't want to take away from the vibe of it. I mean, because it's the whole experience is really beautiful, like going down south of the border and things like that. But to be able to make this available on at scale, right, to be able to treat veterans, I just hope it doesn't get monopolized for profit. I just don't want it to. I want it to be something that's at scale for treatment, and it's a viable option for anybody that wants to seek it. And so maybe that'll start with psilocybin, which has also been proven to relieve PTSD symptoms as well. But yeah, this treatment modality needs to be available to whoever wants it.
I hope in a short amount of time.
Write your congressman.
Yep.
I bet there's some advocacy groups that are probably working on that.
Absolutely
Abbott is he governor of Texas?
He was former governor, so Greg Abbott just was on. In fact, that show was released the day I was heading to Mexico.
Yeah,
and so I've listened to it. And it's to have somebody a conservative like Greg Abbott who is complete 100% anti-drugs.
Yep.
If you listen to that episode of Rogan and hear the passion by which he speaks on Ibogaine, as well as Hubbard, the other guest who was from Kentucky. He was trying to advocate for Ibogaine for opioid, because Ibogaine has been shown to, I don't think it necessarily, maybe I'm reading it wrong, but it doesn't cure addiction, but it absolutely will prevent you from doing it again. Like you can make that choice. You do not want the drug again, and it relieves you of those withdrawal symptoms as well.
Huh.
Yeah, I've heard of that before.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. There's just so much being discovered about this medicine, and I don't know. I'm a believer, and if I need to, I will go do it again, and I will pay for it if I need to pay for it out of pocket, because that's just how much of a change it's made in my life. And I guess it's important to mention. I should have mentioned after the fact of talking about the treatment, but there's a tangible afterglow for quite a while, and I'm 5 weeks out, and I feel like the afterglow for the most part has faded, like that tangible Zen-like feeling, but the changes are still there, and I'm still able to recall that feeling whenever the intense moments come up, and I'm able to access those tools that I now have to bring myself back to baseline. So I think it's important.
I was going to say, it'd be interesting to check in with you like in 6 months and just kind of see like what the progress is, or what the, if there's any hiccups or whatever, just to see how it continues on down the trail.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been great, man. I think
it was good catching up with everybody, and thanks for letting me tell my story.
We're at almost 2.5 here, and
Everything's recorded in flight times.
Yeah. Sorry, it's all flight time here. We're really let's see, in this public math, and so in flight time we use tenths of minutes, which is fucking miserable. Everything is 6-minute increments, so you would have to go to. So right now we're at 2 hours and 20 minutes, so we're 2.4.
2.4. Right? You round up.
Yeah, you go up. So we're 21, so we're over 18, but we're less than 24, so it'd be 2.4.
Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a Marine.
Yeah.
It's yellow.
Yeah. Well, the Marines are the only ones so far that have passed their fiscal audits. Yeah, which I expect
because they don't have any money.
Yeah,
they don't get any money to spend.
You get all your hand-me-downs. I mean, we took saws from we were taking saws from the Gulf War to Iraq with us, man. Come on.
Yeah. I remember when MARSOC came out into SOF, and dude, those guys were still rocking old shit that like the regular Army infantry had for years, you know. And I remember,
dude, check it out. We got an M4s.
Yeah. I was
only the squad leader.
Yes.
Yeah. We were at Pendleton, and I remember this Marine walked up to me, and I was like, "Dude, you guys are in SOF now. Go buy you some shit. Like, why are you rocking that old stuff?" And anyways,
point of pride.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, I will say that on the special operations front, if I have to pick my customer of who I want to work with, it's Delta first, then the Ranger Regiment, and a close second to that, I'd say, is MARSOC.
Yeah, MARSOC was always good to work with.
They're going to be where they say they're going to be, doing what they said they were going to do. Which, you know, as a support element, like, I don't like waiting. So, because I'm burning gas here, man.
You're a big target too.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
And if we don't get back, none of us get back. So, but anyways, dude, I'm glad it's working out for you. Let's do a follow up later, and for everybody else listening, you can go over to polestarcoffee.com and use offer code ALONE. And what do they get, Tyler?
They get 10% off the world's greatest coffee.
Yeah. And you got new coffee you got the Honduran, and
we got 3 new coffees. We got 2 Perus. One of them's a honey processed coffee, so it's a little bit sweeter. It's real nice, real good. One of the best coffees I ever had. And we got a Sumatra on the way, which I should get up. It'll be up by the time.
That's going to be like a really dark kind of thing, right? Is the Sumatra one dark, like a dark roast?
Yeah, it'll probably be a medium roast. I think we'll get it. We'll cut it short of a dark roast so it doesn't taste like shit.
Yeah.
But you know how it is. It's good.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
Best
Go
coffee
there,
in the world.
buy it. Buy the coffee.
Buy all of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And while we're talking about coffee, is if you want to do a fundraiser for your kids' sporting events, Polestar has a fundraiser option. So you can do that. Yeah.
If you have any questions about it, you can email me at tyler@polestarcoffee.com and we can talk. We can work it out. Do it.
You're buying coffee anyway. Might as well buy it from dudes that you listen to on the podcast.
For real.
Yeah.
For real. And it doesn't suck. You might as well buy good coffee if you're buying it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't be an asshole.
If you're buying your coffee at the grocery store, you're a dick.
Yeah. And that's backed up by science. Thad crunched the numbers on it. You're 26% more likely to be a dick.
And as a former coffee buyer from the grocery store, and I'm talking bottom shelf coffee, like I get like the yellow one that says have coffee. Yeah. Like I don't give a shit if it's hot and it's black, I'm drinking it.
Not ethically sourced.
But now I'm on I don't care. Like
basically the blood diamonds of coffee
in Colombia. Great. Like it's cheaper, the better.
You shouldn't be able to sleep at night.
Yeah.
It's all the blood on your hands for drinking cheap coffee.
Yeah. But now I got the Polestar, so it's good.
That's right.
So not strippers either. So.
No, not at all.
But hey man,
it's unfortunate.
Thanks for being with us. Yeah. Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys.
Man, thanks a lot. That was awesome. Thank you.
And hang out before we don't hang up is when we stop this. Like,
that was really hard to say.
World's like today. Fun fact: I'm having like TBI brain or something today, man, because I could not think of like all these words today. I could not. Like, I was trying to explain fundraiser to Don, our boss, today. He was like, what are you saying? Because I was
drooling
making
on
the
yourself.
hand motion of like a bag of coffee. And I'm like, like, so we can sell and he's like, what are you saying? I'm like, the fucking thing, dude, like the thing we talked about. And he's like, and I'm like, you make money for kids? And he's like, what?
Kids in wheelchairs.
I was like, fucking fundraiser. That's what I was trying to think of. And, anyways, so
sweet.
Go buy some Polestar coffee, go over to the Mission Within, check that out. And if you got any questions, you can always hit us up at info@aloneandafraid.org. Go on the website. It should be up by now. If I'm not dicking around, it should be up. Go on there, check it out. We'll link to all this in the show notes. And if you enjoyed this episode, please go to, if you're on Apple Podcasts, go over to Apple, leave us a rating, and actually write a review. It doesn't have to be like a paragraph, just something good. Don't write anything bad, like something good.
Yeah, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Yeah, to the one guy, somebody, left us a 2-star rating. It was on Spotify.
He probably buys bottom shelf coffee.
Yeah. We have since overcome that and got our 5-star rating back. But some troll out there was like, man, fuck these guys. I'm giving them 2 stars.
So regular Army aviator.
Yeah, I guarantee it's somebody I know that doesn't like me. Well,
there's quite a few of those out there.
I'm in charge. Yeah. HR, if you're listening to this, you can't control me. You can't control me. Anyways, hey Jeremy, thanks for coming. Tyler, I'll see you at work tomorrow.
Yeah, great. I can't wait.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Bye.